Bella stood silently by the window, her gaze locked on the figure disappearing down the rain-slicked street. Tears shimmered in her eyes as her fingers tightened around the necklace that hung from her neck, a gift more precious than words could express. She didn't understand the full extent of its power, only that it brought her comfort. When fear clawed at her chest and loneliness loomed, the necklace seemed to whisper that she wasn't alone, that he, the boy who walked among shadows, was still watching over her. Bai Xiao glanced back. For just a heartbeat, their eyes met through the pane of glass, her fragile hope and his unreadable resolve colliding in a moment that felt endless. Then he turned away. He faced Natasha and Barton without a word, his expression unreadable. What could he say? The girl had already formed an impression of him, an image he hadn't intended, yet couldn't deny. A mysterious figure who had saved her, revealed the existence of demons, and vanished just as quickly. The pieces had fallen perfectly into place. The quiet protector, the cursed world, and the innocent girl caught in it all. To someone like Bella, still cocooned in her small-town innocence, the narrative was irresistible. And Bai Xiao knew that all too well. He didn't plan on forming attachments, especially not here. But even he couldn't pretend the girl hadn't stirred something in him. Originally, he had intended to linger in Forks a while longer, observe, maybe help where needed. But the demon's sudden appearance had accelerated everything. Ironically, he now owed that demon a thank you for merging its essence with his and dragging him out of complacency. He's got a thing for the girl, doesn't he? Natasha asked with a hint of amusement, her sharp eyes not missing a beat. Barton shrugged, more focused on something else. I'm still trying to figure out how he moved like that. No broken glass, no sound, no alerting her father. Even with my reflexes, I couldn't track him. Bai Xiao ignored them. His gaze drifted skyward. Rain fell in sheets, but he saw more than clouds. He saw the black miasma of demonic presence creeping through the skies. Even with most of his powers sealed, his passive senses remained. Normally, he detected demon the moment it crossed into this realm. But this one had hidden itself too well. Its appearance wasn't a coincidence. It had marked Bella deliberately, a provocation. A game of cat and mouse, he muttered under his breath. Let's find out who's who. Boom. A sleek black Ducati tore down a winding, muddy road, slicing through the night like a shadow set loose. The downpour blurred the world into streaks of gray, but the motorcycle didn't falter. Bai Xiao rode it with a calm that bordered on recklessness, wind whipping through his jet-black hair, eyes focused. Far behind, a black Chevrolet SUV struggled to keep up. Jesus, he's pushing 300 kilometers per hour, Barton growled, wrestling the wheel as the SUV fishtailed slightly in the wet dirt. This is suicide on a road like this. He's not just pushing the limits, Natasha replied from the passenger seat, eyes fixed on her phone. He's redefining them. Barton gritted his teeth. He's still human. One wrong move, and we're not the target. Shaw is. Natasha ended a call with a soft click. The director's sealing off Chino Town, but only the two of us are cleared for the engagement. We need gear. That thing back there trashed half of what we had. Bullets won't cut it. I'll take holy water in bulk. Thanks, Barton muttered, eyes scanning the stormy road. Maybe we can strap Priest to drones next. Natasha smirked faintly. It's not the worst idea. This world's changing fast. Maybe fate's not such a bad backup plan. Barton barked a laugh, but the tension didn't fade. Whatever Shaw is, he's not just a mutant. Something about him is off. Tell that to the director, Natasha replied, checking the tracker again. Their SUV still blinked on the map. Shaw's marker had vanished long ago. He's letting us see him, she thought. Not because he's careless, because he wants to. There were layers to this boy, layers she was only beginning to see, and something told her they were about to peel back one more. The rain fell in sheets, thick and relentless, as the storm rolled into Chino Town. Unlike Sleepy Forks, Chino Town had a hint of modernity, with wider roads and newer buildings. But tonight, under the pitch-black sky, It might as well have been a ghost town. The streets were abandoned, the glow of scattered building lights the only sign of life. Boom! A roar shattered the silence. A sleek black motorcycle tore through the rain-drenched roads like a phantom. Startled faces peeked from behind curtains, catching only a glimpse of the blur. Bai Xiao leaned forward on the Ducati, his coat billowing behind him. Rain hammered down but veered away from him, deflected by an unseen barrier. His headlamp carved through the darkness as he cut toward the southwestern edge of town. The road narrowed, swallowed by forest. Gnarled trees twisted toward the sky like claws, lining a muddy, serpentine trail. The forest felt alive, watchful, ancient, hungry. After 10 minutes of weaving through the dark, Bai Xiao emerged into a clearing choked with overgrown weeds. At its center stood the crumbling remains of a house, half consumed by time and rot. The forest loomed on all sides, as though waiting to reclaim the last vestige of human presence. Boom! The bike came to a halt. Bai Xiao remained seated, one foot on the ground, eyes scanning the ruin. Slowly, his pupils turned gold, and the world shifted. His vision peeled back the layers of time, reality unfolding into ghostly fragments. The ruined house stood whole again. A well-kept garden, a porch, a lonely old man tending to nothing but silence. A half-naked woman's portrait hung in the living room. It watched. It drew people in. One girl entered the house, then another and another, all lured by the portrait's unnatural allure, only to fall prey to a shadow-wrapped man. One by one, they were possessed in their dreams, their souls stolen. The old man buried them in the garden. For decades, it continued, until the fire. The house burned, consuming the man and burying the truth beneath ash and soil. A month ago, local children stumbled upon the remains. The police recovered the corpses and the portrait. Bai Xiao's golden gaze returned to the present, only to find the woman in the painting smiling at him again. This level of interference. This demon isn't ordinary, he murmured. It hadn't just left a trace. It had mocked him, inviting him to witness, challenging him, and that made it dangerous and valuable. High-level demons like this were rare. With his current strength, only beings like Mephisto or Lucifer posed a real threat. But such entities wouldn't dare set foot on Earth without being weakened. Barriers, ancient laws, and the ever-watchful Ancient One ensured that. Still, this demon had managed to evade even her gaze. Bai Xiao's brows furrowed, hunting through a portrait possessing pure souls. It's been feeding for decades, and now it had marked Bella. The cold fury in his chest solidified. Twisting the throttle, he spun the bike around and rocketed back through the forest. Just outside the woods, headlights emerged. A black SUV approached. The two vehicles passed each other, one speeding into battle, the other arriving too late. Barton slammed the brakes, causing the SUV to skid sideways. "He looks pissed," Barton muttered. "He found the trail," Natasha said grimly. They were both clad in specialized tactical gear, courtesy of S.H.I.E.L.D., reinforced suits designed for combat against the supernatural. "We look like backup characters in someone else's story," Barton smirked. "The world's changed, Clint. I miss the days when I only needed a bow and a bad guy." They whipped the SUV around and followed the tire trails toward Chino Town. At the police station, Bai Xiao's bike screeched to a halt. He dismounted, leaving the Ducati outside as he strode in without a word. Officers glanced at him but didn't question his presence. The air around him discouraged interruption. He walked the halls like he owned them. Lights flickered as he passed. The atmosphere shifted, less fluorescent, more foreboding. The building itself seemed to acknowledge his arrival. Meanwhile, Natasha and Barton arrived, flashing their badges and skipping the formalities. "Storage room," Natasha asked briskly. "Second floor." "Into the hall," an officer muttered. She already had a hunch where Bai Xiao was headed. Upstairs, Bai Xiao entered the storage room, barely guarded, filled with lost property and forgotten evidence. His eyes scanned the cluttered shelves until they landed on it. The painting, the woman's haunting portrait hung on the far wall, just as he had seen it in the vision. Her beauty was unnatural, seductive, cold, inhuman. Then she spoke. How curious, a human with a power I despise. She would like you, the woman sneered. Bai Xiao didn't respond. His golden eyes narrowed. Footsteps echoed behind him, slow and heavy. Time seemed to pause. Why so angry? The voice continued. Is it the girls I devoured, or her? Bella, was it? So pure, so radiant. I've never tasted one quite like her. Her tone turned teasing. Let's play a game. I found you, Bai Xiao interrupted coldly. Boom! A golden magic circle ignited beneath his feet. With a flare of light, he vanished. The smile on the painting twisted into shock. And then silence. Bang! The door burst open. Natasha and Barton stormed in, weapons drawn. They scanned the room. Empty. Where is he? Barton whispered. Far away, beneath the moonlit sky of Kamartaj, the Ancient One paused mid-lesson. Her gaze turned sharp, her senses trembling. Bai Xiao? Why'd he just enter hell? She was stunned. He was meant to walk this path eventually, but now? So soon? Her eyes gleamed as her consciousness shifted to another plane. Hell, a world of fire and shadows, where ruined cities lay buried in dust and ash. The sky bled crimson. The ground cracked with rivers of lava. Demons prowled every dark crevice, and the air choked with malice. On the balcony of a fortress, a demon lord with crimson wings looked skyward and froze. Hovering above the castle, illuminated by the blood-red glow of the sky, was a lone human. Black hair, golden eyes, a coat that fluttered in the infernal wind, and an aura that silenced the land. You're mad, barging into my realm over a human girl. The demon was in disbelief. Were the rules? The posturing? The back and forth? Bai Xiao looked down at him, expression calm, eyes sharp, voice ice cold. Game.
Hey, everyone. If you enjoy my quantum audiobooks, you can support me by becoming a Patreon member. Your support helps me keep creating, and you'll get exclusive perks. You can also access my audiobooks directly through Google Drive. Check out the link in the description. Now, let's get started.
Flipping tables was what he did best. He noticed that this boss was overly cautious, not even on Earth, yet still wanted to play a cat-and-mouse game. He didn't have the time for that. Tracing the source of the aura, he went straight to the opponent's front. Enjoy hiding? I've come to your house. Let's see how you hide now. Moreover, this demon lord didn't give Bai Xiao much of a sense of oppression, so he was determined to take down this boss. Even if he couldn't win in the other's territory, Bai Xiao could escape, and the opponent couldn't stop him. He also had another assurance. Ancient One. Ancient One was the absolute master of backup plans. Having invested so much in him, she wouldn't let that investment go to waste. If an accident occurred, Bai Xiao would owe Ancient One another favor. Since he already owed favors, a few more wouldn't matter. As long as he could defeat this demon, it would be worth it to owe another favor. What a lunatic! The demon lord didn't understand Bai Xiao's thoughts, only thinking that this human had a rather fiery temper. However, being in his own territory, he calmed himself slightly and was about to speak, but Bai Xiao didn't give him a chance for any nonsense. Virum. In the next moment, the gateway to the dimensional world opened, and thousands upon thousands of golden vortices, shimmering like mirrors, appeared behind him, layering like a huge golden wall. Dazzling golden light shone across this world. Terrifying energy rippled and swept in all directions. The entire world trembled, shivered, and distorted. The demon's eyes widened abruptly. Instinctively, he roared in anger, fully revealing his true demonic form. His demonic body was a gigantic monster with a human torso, serpent tail, and chicken feet. He had 3 enormous heads, a human head, a goat head, and a bull head. One hand held a large, exaggerated sword, while the other held a massive blood-red banner. On the other side, thousands upon thousands of weapons appeared from the golden vortices as Bai Xiao waved his hand gently. Boom! Countless weapons, surrounded by golden magical particles, fell like a shower of golden meteors. In that instant, their speed reached the speed of light, inducing a scalp-numbing feeling just by looking at them. Even the demon felt a great sense of danger. Roaring, he swung his large sword. A vast black-purple magic power was released. Powerful dark magic transformed into layers of enormous black-purple magic shields above the palace, totaling 13 layers, each larger and covering a wider area than the last. In an instant, the dense falling meteors bombarded these massive magic shields like a torrential downpour. Unfortunately, facing tens of thousands of lightspeed attacks, these magic shields couldn't hold up, shattering completely in less than a second. The terrifying pressure made the demon below feel like cursing. Without hesitation, he vanished from where he stood. Thus, endless meteors fell and exploded on the vast and luxurious ancient castle. Boom, boom, boom. One after another, violent explosions erupted. Thousands upon thousands of golden mushroom clouds burst forth, and the ground shook wildly. The raging energy swept in all directions, overturning the earth from the palace outward as if plowed, and the air currents devoured everything in their path. The devastation extended for tens or even hundreds of kilometers, and those demons and undead caught in the blast and unable to escape were annihilated in despair and screams. It took a long, long time for everything to calm down. A strong wind blew, dispersing the pervasive dust and revealing a bleak scene below. A vast area of tens of kilometers was sunken, pitted with craters like the surface of the moon, and the luxurious castle of the demon was nothing but history, reduced to ruins. Without even glancing down, Bai Shao looked ahead. In the air, in front of him, stood the three-headed demon, about 3 kilometers away. "Are you Asmodius? You fool! You will suffer the most brutal punishment for your actions. I will imprison you in the depths of hell's cage forever, where you will repent in endless pain," Asmodius's 3 heads said in a low, hoarse voice, echoing in this world. Bai Shao was indifferent. His clothes fluttered in the air as he stared at the infamous demon king, Asmodius. He recognized Asmodius, mainly because there was a book in Camartage that recorded information about some powerful demon lords in the Hell Dimension, including Asmodius. Asmodius was described in the book as the Demon King, representing lust. He was a well-known figure in Hell. According to the book, Asmodius liked to monopolize human women he fancied indiscriminately. If they were engaged, he would kill all their fiancées. Moreover, Asmodius particularly liked pure-hearted women, or rather, all demons did, because such women had the purest souls, which were chosen by angels to become vessels for their descent. He once wreaked havoc on the earth. During a war between heaven and hell, he fought with the Archangel Raphael, falling into a disadvantage and was finally captured by the Archangel Gabriel. How he escaped back to hell was probably due to some trade-off, paying a considerable price. Asmodius also had a famous wife, Lilith, the embodiment of Lilith represented lust, never aged, had long black hair, and a serpent's tail. No man could resist her charm, and she absorbed men's vitality to stay young. She ruled the night and Friday. In the book, there was a specific description of Lilith, saying that she, who came from ancient times, radiated youthful vitality, with a neck like cream adorned with garlands of roses and poppies. She always descended at night, weaving a web of emotions with her gentle gaze, making every man lose his soul and fall deeply in love. Considering the semi-nude woman's painting in the police station storage room and Asmodius's comment that she would like Bai Shao, it was likely referring to Lilith. Bai Shao developed a keen interest in this notorious lust demon. Don't get it wrong. He just wanted to see if the legendary demon was as beautiful as described. After all, men are like that. Shaking off these impractical thoughts, Bai Shao surveyed the surroundings. His vast supersensory perception detected that, during his attack on Asmodius, distant gazes were focused on him, conveying surprise, doubt, malice, killing intent, and greed. Clearly, his arrival had attracted the attention of other demon lords in hell. Among them, he also sensed a familiar gaze, ancient one. A master of Ancient One's caliber would certainly watch quietly. It seems I'm about to become famous. Although those demon lords were watching him, Bai Xiao wasn't worried. Instead, he grew more excited. There were too many of them. Indeed, too many. Even with a rough sense, there were at least more than 10 demon lords. Hell was indeed one of the largest dungeons. Once he conquered it, he would establish his place at the sky, Father's level, or even above. As for whether these demon lords would attack together, Bai Xiao didn't care at all. Hell was the true dark forest, adhering to only one law: survival of the fittest in its most brutal form. A demon lord's death meant that the resources and territory belonging to the demon lord would become available. If those demon lords sensed another demon lord's weakness, they would swarm like hyenas, mercilessly tearing them apart. Similarly, the power gap among demon lords wasn't significant, so they wouldn't easily go to war. Once at war, both sides would suffer losses, and any sign of weakness would invite other demon lords to attack. The same logic applied to Bai Xiao and Asmodius's battle. The demon lords didn't care if Bai Xiao was a demon or human. They were only interested in the outcome. No matter who lived or died, once the battle ended, the demon lords would appear and tear them both apart, even dividing their souls. Observing a fight from a distance seemed like a good idea, but they didn't know what would happen if they let Bai Xiao and Asmodius fight. This was why Bai Xiao confidently entered Hell and confronted Asmodius. Bai Xiao could sense those demon lords watching quietly. As a demon lord, Asmodius also sensed this. His human head wore a grim expression, and he spat out a flame, staring eerily at the seemingly mad human before him. Do you know what you have done? You don't understand Hell's rules and dare to intrude here. Look around you. I believe you feel those gazes. Do you know what the result will be? Now, get out of my territory. Asmodius roared in anger. Regardless, this time his reputation took a massive hit. A human had intruded into his territory and destroyed his castle. This was a significant blow to his status as a demon lord. Demons didn't care much about reputation unless it brought great benefits. But this time, there were no benefits, only humiliation in front of other demon lords. He would be furious if he wasn't angry. If he could, he would tear Bai Xiao apart. But Bai Xiao's displayed strength made him wary, so he could only gain some advantage verbally. Asmodius believed that if the opponent had any sense, they wouldn't continue fighting him now. At most exchange some harsh words, a process he was very familiar with, just like the previous wars with heaven. However, Asmodius didn't expect that Bai Xiao's mind worked differently from others, or rather, his perspective was completely different. Facing the enraged Asmodius, Bai Xiao's handsome face remained expressionless. He said softly, "You have killed too many innocent women. You shouldn't have set your sights on her either. You must pay for your actions." With that, a fierce, vast aura swept across the world like a storm, as if the will of an ancient god had awakened. The majestic aura shook the heavens and the earth, and the weapons embedded in the ground below vanished. From the golden vortices behind him, the weapons that made Asmodius change color reappeared. "You lunatic!" Asmodius roared in disbelief. Black-purple energy surged out instantly, transforming into a river hanging upside down in the sky. Amidst his anger, he was terrified. He never expected the opponent to be so insane, entering Hell alone to fight him just for a group of weak humans and a woman. Not only that, knowing that continuing the battle would lead to others taking advantage and certain death, he still insisted on killing him. What kind of deep-seated hatred could drive someone to such an extent? At their level, there was no such thing as hatred. In their long years, hatred was just an episode. Only interests and resources were eternal. Even if they hated someone, they would bury it deep in their hearts, waiting for a suitable opportunity for revenge. Such reckless behavior was completely against the rules he knew. Bai Xiao didn't bother with words. This information gap made his actions seem strange to others. Only he knew why he did it. Boom! Endless radiant beams poured towards Asmodius. Despite his rage and regret for provoking this madman, he could only accept the challenge helplessly. The raging black tide and dazzling golden light collided. The sky was filled with interwoven black, purple, and gold, like the grandest fireworks display, making the blood-colored firmament sparkle and shine with brilliant colors. Boom! With an explosion, Bai Xiao broke through the air, aiming directly at Asmodius. The latter was somewhat stunned, watching the human brat who broke through the two energies and charged at him. The speed was so fast that he could barely react. In such a high-level confrontation, a moment of distraction or a single flaw often results in a beating. Asmodius realized this, but it was too late. The short distance of several thousand meters was fleeting for a being of Bai Xiao's level. The white sneakers shone glaringly under the golden light. Asmodius could only see a golden shadow at the corner of his eye before feeling intense pain and immense power on the side of his face. Speed is power, and this is not just an empty saying. When one already possesses great power and combines it with explosive speed, the force generated increases exponentially. Even Asmodius, a demon lord with an incredibly strong demon body, was nearly seriously injured by Bai Xiao's kick. Dizzy from the kick, Asmodius's entire body fell to the ground like a slanting meteor. Boom! His body crashed heavily into the ground, raising clouds of dust, creating a crater several kilometers in diameter, with dense cracks spreading out like a spider web. The overwhelming blast wave swept around. Asmodius's body rebounded from the ground, and at this moment, Bai Xiao descended from the sky, bending his knees and smashing down on Asmodius's chest. Boom! The thunderous explosion was even more enormous than before, and the blast wave was larger in scale. Asmodius was slammed deep into the ground by Bai Xiao's knee strike, clearly dazed by the two heavy blows. Bai Xiao did not miss this opportunity. He raised his fists and attacked Asmodius madly, each punch carrying immense magic power, hitting Asmodius with every blow, causing Asmodius's demon body to collapse significantly. Blood and flesh flew everywhere, and the intense pain finally made Asmodius react, roaring and swinging his fists to counterattack. One of his three heads opened its mouth to spray hellfire at Bai Xiao, but Bai Xiao was too quick. Using his ability to predict 3 seconds into the future, he blocked Asmodius's hands with one hand and twisted the human head's jaw with the other, aiming it at the goat head. Hellfire sprayed out, almost burning the goat head. Fortunately, he had enough resistance to hellfire, and the most it did was burn his skin. Asmodius kept falling into the ground, struggling madly to counterattack, but all his efforts were accurately blocked by Bai Xiao. A moment of distraction had led to Asmodius being suppressed in such a miserable state. Unable to bear it any longer, Asmodius roared, and the eyes of his 3 heads glowed with black light. Bai Xiao immediately sensed the danger, realizing that Asmodius wanted to use a burst of power to break free. But would he let him go so easily? Bai Xiao extended his right hand and slapped Asmodius's chest heavily. An overwhelming psychic force invaded Asmodius's mind, creating a massive psychic storm, recklessly bombing with countless psychic bombs. In Asmodius's mind, a storm of psychic calamities raged, with countless explosions turning into a storm, instantly causing Asmodius's mind to short-circuit. Bai Xiao would never miss such an opportunity to beat down a drowning dog. He extended his right hand, and a golden light flowed out, forming a magnificent long sword resembling Saber's Excalibur, symbolizing victory. Holding the golden sword, with starry golden light gathering and compressing into the blade, the overwhelming golden magic power covered the sword. Without hesitation, he slashed down at Asmodius below. Boom! The blood-colored earth within hundreds of thousands of meters turned golden, with the ground cracking and the plates shifting and falling. The surging golden magic power erupted from the cracks, turning the area into a sacred golden land. Finally, a terrifying golden holy light shot from the ground straight into the sky. A golden pillar of light hundreds of thousands of meters in diameter connected the blood-colored sky and earth, displaying tyrannical energy. Asmodius's demon body could be seen instinctively releasing all its power within the pillar, with the black-purple energy of the world's evil struggling and resisting in the golden light pillar. Evil and sanctity were in conflict. The storm swept through heaven and earth, and this overwhelming energy fluctuation also shocked the demon lords observing the area. They watched silently, intending to see if they could benefit from the situation. They knew that when they noticed the greedy looks from the other demon lords, the battle would usually end. However, what these demon lords didn't expect was that the human brat, who seemed to have some grudge against Asmodius, completely ignored them and didn't care if they would take advantage after the battle. He just wanted to fight Asmodius. They appreciated such a character. Of course, they wouldn't show mercy when it was time to act. But was this human brat too strong? The energy fluctuations left Asmodius completely unable to fight back, even though they knew the human had taken advantage of Asmodius's moment of distraction. Still, not everyone could turn such an opportunity into victory. The demon lords knew that while the human was adept at seizing opportunities, their combat power was on the same level. It was impossible to kill Asmodius. The subsequent battle would inevitably turn into a prolonged war. Time passed, and a week later, Forkstown was still filled with rain and clouds, with occasional thunderclaps in the sky. In Chief Charlie's apartment, early in the morning, Bella, dressed in gray long-sleeve clothes due to the cold March rain, with a dark green short-sleeve hoodie over it, jeans, and carrying a backpack, came down to the living room. In the kitchen, her father, Chief Charlie, was setting a plate with typical Western breakfast items like fried eggs, sandwiches, and milk on the table. Charlie, seeing his silent and worried daughter, sighed, "Don't worry, Bella. I heard that Shaw was invited by the police station in Chinotown to help with a murder case due to his excellent drawing skills. I contacted Chief Morley in Chinotown and confirmed the news. He'll be back soon. You don't need to worry so much." A week ago, Bai Xiao suddenly disappeared, and Charlie noticed Bella seemed worried. Bai Xiao's camper remained in front of the house. After 2 days without seeing Bai Xiao, Bella became more anxious, and Charlie felt something was wrong. He thought Bai Xiao might have been taken by someone forcibly. As the town's chief, he immediately dispatched many people to search for Bai Xiao. Even local gangs were searched, and finally, Bai Xiao was seen on a street surveillance camera, hurriedly leaving town on his black Ducati motorcycle, followed by a black Chevrolet SUV. Charlie used his connections to find Bai Xiao in Chinotown and contacted Chief Morley there. Chinotown had experienced a murder case with multiple deaths. They needed Bai Xiao's drawing skills to sketch the murderer from witnesses' descriptions. Charlie found this reasonable. Drawing experts were rare in small towns like Forks and Chino. Such experts were typically found only in big cities. Applying for one from the city took time, so they invited Bai Xiao right away. Charlie found this reasonable, but Bella saw it as a problem. She ate her breakfast absent-mindedly, her mind replaying the night a week ago. In her room, the tall figure had shattered the disgusting black aura and placed the necklace on her neck. Every word he said was etched in her memory, and she watched him ride off into the night. She knew he wasn't simply invited by the police, but was tracking that demon, a true demon. A week had passed, and Bai Xiao hadn't appeared. Did that mean he encountered an accident? Bella was very worried and wanted to find him, but knew she was powerless, just an ordinary girl. She couldn't help Bai Xiao and might even cause trouble if she found him. For the first time, Bella hated herself, wishing she were a mutant to help Bai Xiao. Now, she could only pray silently, hoping to see that figure who brought her safety again. After breakfast, Bella washed the dishes and told her father, "I'm going to school." Receiving Charlie's blessing, Bella drove her red Chevrolet pickup to school. It was a school day. The new term had started in March, but Bella had delayed attending because of her worry for Bai Xiao. Today, persuaded by Charlie, she chose to go to school. Driving, she unconsciously held the necklace around her neck. The necklace given by the boy was magical, as he said, protecting her, glowing golden at night to soothe her worries and help her sleep. It felt like he was with her, watching over her. The necklace seemed to have a magical power, constantly improving her health. Remembering her time with Bai Xiao, his every action and smile was unforgettable. She reached the school parking lot after a while. The school was large though old, yet beautiful, surrounded by trees and plants. In the morning, many students walked into the school, laughing and talking. Bella's old red Chevrolet pickup stood out, and she, in her brown hooded coat, got out, attracting attention from other students. Some girls glanced at her pickup, laughing mockingly. Bella didn't mind, walking with her black backpack. A dark-skinned student beside a blonde girl glanced at Bella, impressed, saying, "Nice car." Looking at Bella, he added. Bella brushed her hair, saying thank you, and walked on. The blonde girl beside the dark-skinned boy smacked him, saying that's enough. The boy didn't explain, hands in pockets, watching Bella. He wasn't mocking her. He genuinely wanted to know her. Bella ignored the various looks she received. As she walked into the school, a black-haired Asian student approached her. Bella was very alert and immediately turned her head to look. This lively Asian boy greeted Bella with excitement. "Are you the new girl, Isabella Swan?" "Hey, I'm Eric, the school's go-to guy for anything." The lively Asian boy continued to walk and talk with Bella, gesturing animatedly. "Need anything? A guide, a lunch date, a shoulder to cry on?" "Thank you, but I don't need any of that. I'm more used to being alone." If it had been the old Bella, she might have been uneasy when suddenly faced with a cheerful and outgoing boy in an unfamiliar environment. But now she wasn't in the mood. After saying that, she kept walking. "All right, if you need anything, feel free to find me. It's free." Despite being refused, the Asian boy remained enthusiastic. "Thank you, Eric. If I need anything, I'll definitely come to you." Bella accepted the goodwill and then immediately headed to her classroom. When she found her classroom, she faced many gazes, but she didn't feel uncomfortable. Rather, she seemed to have closed off her heart. Now, her mind was occupied by only one person. She wouldn't care about anything else until she got news of that boy's safety. Of course, she still met two enthusiastic and proactive students in gym class while playing volleyball. One named Mike Newton and a boy with a name combining the basketball god and the father of physics. There was also a somewhat round-faced white girl student, Jessica. At noon, Bella came to the cafeteria with a tray, found an empty seat, and sat down to enjoy her lunch. Naturally, her beauty attracted the attention of the students in the cafeteria. However, as soon as she started eating, the familiar faces Eric, Mike Newton, and Jessica came over and warmly chatted with Bella. Bella wasn't particularly enthusiastic, but wasn't good at rejecting kindness. While they were chatting, a dark-skinned boy in a red jacket suddenly came over, bent down, and tried to kiss Bella on the cheek. Bella reacted very quickly, and the necklace on her neck automatically triggered its magic. Bella leaned back sharply, grabbed the boy's neck with one hand, and slammed him down onto the table with a bang, causing exclamations of surprise from the people around. "Wow! Hey, you don't need to do that. It was just a joke." The dark-skinned boy, feeling a bit annoyed, immediately broke free. Bella was also startled by her own reaction. Recognizing the dark-skinned boy as the one who had complimented her car that morning, Bella frowned and coldly said, "That joke wasn't funny at all." She touched her necklace, covering the faint golden glow. She knew the power that had surged just now came from the necklace. "Don't be like that, Tyler. Bella doesn't like such jokes." Mike, the white student, quickly patted Tyler's shoulder. Tyler shrugged, realizing the joke was too frivolous and had upset the new pretty girl. He immediately apologized. "I'm very sorry, Bella. It was my fault." Bella didn't hold a grudge since she wasn't harmed. However, she didn't treat Tyler well, and he noticed this, leaving awkwardly. "Tyler is just a bit too lively. Don't mind it, Bella." Seeing Bella's expressionless face, Mike weakly explained for his friend, but was soon silenced by a slap from Jessica beside him. Bella remained silent while Eric exaggeratedly said, "That was so cool, Bella. You were like Wonder Woman just now." "Oh my God. Indeed, very impressive." A girl with glasses and a camera sat down and looked at Bella with admiration, making Bella a bit uncomfortable. While they were talking, Bella seemed to sense something. She turned her head and saw a group of people walking towards the cafeteria through the window. "They're the Cullen family," adopted children of Dr. Cullen and his wife. They moved from Alaska a few years ago. Jessica explained as she followed Bella's gaze. Angela added, they don't socialize much. Yes, because they're always together, and that kind of together. The blonde one is Rosalie, and the black-haired boy is Emmett. They're a couple. I'm not sure if that's even legal. It's okay, Jess. They're not related by blood. Yeah, but they live together, which is still strange. Jessica made a really puzzled face and continued, and the black-haired petite girl is Alice. She's the weirdest. Her partner is Jasper, the blonde guy who always looks in pain. Dr. Cullen seems to act as both their adoptive father and matchmaker. Jessica wriggled her body as she concluded, maybe he'll adopt me too. Angela shyly mentioned Dr. Cullen as she expressed her opinion. Bella nodded while listening to the introductions and then lowered her head to continue eating her lunch. She just felt that as these people passed by her, the necklace on her neck emitted a slight warmth as if warning her. This made Bella feel that the Cullen family was not simple, and she became more cautious. While eating, another handsome boy walked in. Jessica immediately became a little shy and excited. Look, he's Edward Cullen. Needless to say, he's smoking hot, but apparently no one here is good enough for him. Bella glanced over. Indeed, he was very handsome, but she didn't feel anything. She lowered her head and continued eating. Meanwhile, at the cafeteria window, the Cullen family sat together. Alice, the so-called number one weirdo, held Jasper's hand and whispered to the other family members, "Do you feel something strange?" "You felt something too?" The blonde beauty Rosalie, sitting next to Emmett, looked at Bella, who was eating not far away. Everyone else did the same, including Edward. From where Bella sat, only her profile was visible, but for some reason, he felt his heart skip a beat. He stared at Bella's profile and was surprised to find that his ability to read minds didn't seem to work on that girl. She's the new student, Isabella Swan. Alice, also watching Bella, whispered, "She has a strange power that makes me feel a bit scared." I felt it too. She's not an ordinary person. Rosalie nodded. Edward didn't speak, just stared at Bella. In the days that followed, the Cullen family became wary of Bella. Bella attended school and went home by herself, while the Cullen family kept an eye on her. Edward's attention was different from the others. He felt an inexplicable attraction to this girl whose mind he couldn't read. He wanted to approach her, talk to her, be with her, but he knew he was a vampire and couldn't bring her into his world. Moreover, he felt that the girl seemed uninterested in him, with some worry between her brows. Why was she worried? He wanted to rush over and ask her. In the classroom, Edward sat behind Bella, watching her back. Bella, on the other hand, was looking out the window, thinking about someone else. In Hell, a grand war had lasted for half a month. This half-month war attracted the attention of various forces in Hell. All kinds of demons and Hell hunters knew that a powerful human had invaded Hell and waged war against the demon lord Asmodius. Such a large-scale event was rare in Hell. Millions of kilometers around had been bombed into a desolate landscape, with huge craters everywhere. The sky was filled with golden light occupying half the world, while black-purple energy rivers occupied the other half, fighting against each other. Two different forces, two clearly defined worlds clashing, as if tearing space in half. Boom! At the center of the collision between the two mighty energies, in the sky, Bai Shao wielded the sword of promised victory, clashing with Asmodius's great sword. The sparks and brilliant black, purple, and golden starbursts from their swords illuminated the sky. The two figures, human and demon, seemed like a world-famous painting frozen in that moment. Bai Shao, as he had been half a month ago, wore a black coat and white t-shirt, unchanged. Asmodius, on the other hand, looked a bit ragged, with two of his three heads, the goat and bull heads, severed, and his demon body covered in various wounds, bleeding black-purple blood. Damn it! Why is this human so powerful, like a monster? Asmodius struggled to hold on, his human head filled with a stern expression and anxious eyes. It had been half a month. This half-month, from initial rage to disbelief, the process had been torturous, known only to him. As a demon lord, he had fought countless battles and seen all kinds of life, but this black-haired human was different. Half a month ago, a moment of distraction had allowed the human to seize the opportunity and launch a frantic attack, suppressing his rhythm. Asmodius had paid a price to regain control. But over this half-month, the tide of battle gradually shifted in the human's favor. The humans seemed to enjoy the fight, using various magic Asmodius had never seen before. Moreover, the human's stamina seemed endless, his internal energy inexhaustible. He had fought continuously for half a month without any sign of weakness. On the contrary, Asmodius noticed the human's aura kept rising, adapting to this level of battle. Yes, the human was adapting to this level of battle. Initially, the human's fear suppression was fierce, but was pushed back by Asmodius, who then realized the human was unfamiliar with this level of warfare, giving Asmodius a brief upper hand. But as time passed, the human's adaptability astounded Asmodius. It was incredibly fast, adapting to this high-intensity battle within half a day. Then, the human made continuous progress, analyzing Asmodius's every move in battle, completely dissecting him. The fight became one-sided. Asmodius found himself merely resisting, unable to counterattack. His every thought seemed to be seen through by the human's terrifying golden eyes. There was no way to fight. Asmodius realized the human's true intention was not only to kill him, but also to use the battle to stimulate his own growth. The human wasn't the lunatic Asmodius had imagined, but a purposeful lunatic. Fear crept into Asmodius's heart. He sensed the human indeed had the ability to kill him. He regretted marking that girl. Asmodius's emotional changes were noticed by many demon lords, including the Sorcerer Supreme, Ancient One. Ancient One stood at the edge of Kamartaj Cliff, looking up at the sky, seeing the scene across dimensions, and smiled lightly. Cowardice is the beginning of death. So, you've completed your mission, it's time for you to die. Ancient One's words seemed to transcend time and space, reaching Bai Zhao's ears. Bai Zhao leaned forward, coldly saying, "It's time to end this. Max mode, activate." Boom! A mysterious symbol appears faintly on Bai Zhao's forehead, and then an overwhelming amount of magic power was released, surging into Bai Zhao's body. Visible torrents of golden energy erupted like a substantial wave. Dozens of times the oppressive energy accumulated. Impossible. Asmodius had already been struggling against Bai Zhao. Suddenly, Bai Zhao said something inexplicable, and his power inexplicably increased dozens of times, completely overwhelming Asmodius. The great sword shattered with the surge of power, scattering fragments everywhere, causing Asmodius to stagger backward due to the immense force. His only head was full of disbelief. How could this be possible? In this level of war, after half a month, not only had the power not weakened, but it had suddenly increased dozens of times. What was this? Asmodius had neither seen nor heard of anything like this. No matter how unbelievable, the fact was that Bai Zhao, in max mode, had increased his power by dozens of times. The surging magic power infused his body, making his skin appear golden. The overwhelming, compressed magic power continuously released from the dimensional world in his brow, and such vast power could no longer be suppressed. Moreover, he didn't intend to suppress it. He wanted to completely release this power through Asmodius to obtain the most effective data. Boom! A golden ripple flashed, and Bai Zhao's figure had already disappeared. His speed was so fast that not even Asmodius, or the other demon lords who had been watching, could detect him. The world that had been occupied by a black-purple energy surge was now overpowered by a torrential golden energy that directly swallowed the other energy. Under the golden-rendered sky, Bai Zhao tore through the air and appeared before Asmodius, who couldn't react, and mercilessly severed Asmodius' only remaining head with the sword of promised victory. Asmodius' head still bore expressions of shock and fear. It shouldn't have been like this. Bai Zhao was relentless, the sword of promised victory in his hand constantly swinging. The golden sword light dancing in the air, like a graceful dancer performing a tango, like a lively elf. But beneath the beauty lay brutal death. In 1 second, Bai Xiao had sliced Asmodius' demonic body into over 1,000 pieces. Moreover, he aimed his left palm at these pieces. Buzz! A brilliant golden magic circle expanded from his palm to tens of meters wide. The roaring and magnificent golden magic power devoured and pulverized the pieces into dust. Asmodius' only head floated, witnessing this, and tried to escape, but Bai Xiao wouldn't let him go. Buzz! Asmodius was astonished to find that from all directions, in the sky, golden vortices formed a circle that completely enveloped him. Beyond this, a square magical barrier surrounded him, isolating space and making it impossible for Asmodius to escape through spatial means. Weapons shining with star-like golden light emerged from the golden vortices, aiming at Asmodius' only remaining head. Despair overtook Asmodius. He was utterly hopeless. He knew he was doomed to die. He closed his eyes, awaiting death. Before it came, his mind recalled his wife Lilith. He regretted and resented that incident long ago and Lilith's coldness. But he understood, Asmodius knew, this was hell. Even demons have feelings. It's just that Lilith's love, Asmodius had lost. Boom! Dazzling golden light filled the world. No one could see what was happening inside. The surging energy exploded, and the rolling, turbulent energy wave engulfed everything. Even the demon lords didn't dare to act rashly. Not only were they wary of other demon lords, but they were also cautious of Bai Xiao at this moment. In max mode, Bai Xiao was so strong that the demon lords felt apprehensive. Moreover, just having killed a demon lord, his momentum had risen to an unimaginable level, and he was at his peak, making him invincible. After a long time, when everything calmed down, Bai Xiao gazed at the unprecedentedly rich life essence in front of him, and he smiled happily. This journey to hell had brought him an incredibly rich harvest. A hint of greed flashed in his eyes as he glanced around. The once greedy eyes of the others had turned into fear, vigilance, and amazement. If he could, he wished he could wield the sword of promised victory and kill them all. But he couldn't do that. Bai Xiao's intrusion into hell to kill Asmodius had already alarmed the demon lords. If he attacked another demon lord, these demon lords would unite to hunt him down, regardless of the reason. Demon hunters did exist, but none had ever been born who hunted demon lords. If they appeared, they would only die. Bai Xiao's mind was clear and calm, so he didn't explain much. Accompanied by the golden magic teleportation array expanding under his feet and the golden starlight ripples covering him, his figure disappeared from hell. Hell seemed to suddenly become quiet. But those small and large forces, demons and undead in hell, knew that the quietness was because the demon lords were secretly clashing, dividing the territory and resources left by Asmodius. Meanwhile, in a certain kingdom within hell, in a delicate and beautiful ancient castle, on a bed, a seductive figure lay on her side, a garland of roses and poppies around her alabaster neck, her long black hair cascading, and her bare feet capable of attracting any man's gaze. Her beauty was stunning. One of her delicate white hands supported her head, her eyes shining with a peculiar light. I didn't expect you to be killed by a human, my husband, Asmodius. We once swore an oath, but you broke it. I cursed you to die, but I knew the curse couldn't kill you, but a human did. A human? May you never rest in peace, my love. She slowly stood up from the bed. Behind her was a withered, decayed man with a satisfied expression. Lilith, dressed in sheer gauze, walked barefoot to the window, gazing into the bloody distance. A human with holy power, a noble soul, a fervor for battle. Interesting. What kind of taste will you have? Forts High School. In the afternoon, accompanied by the ringing of the bell, students packed their books into their bags, preparing to leave school. Bella, dressed in a blue-gray long-sleeved top, walked towards her locker with her backpack on. At that moment, Bella seemed to sense something and turn around, only to see a boy named Edward hesitating. Seeing Bella's gaze, he seemed to muster up the courage to approach her. "Hey, I'm Edward Cullen." "Bella." Bella's fine brows barely furrowed, but she still responded. "Is there something you need?" "I just wanted to get to know you," Edward said honestly, curious about the girl in front of him, who exuded a mysterious aura that continually attracted him because he couldn't read her mind. "Well, now we know each other. Goodbye." Bella nodded politely, said a brief farewell, and turned to open her locker, taking out her jacket, ready to leave. Edward stood there a bit stunned, not expecting such a response from Bella. Bella walked a couple of steps, then seemed to think of something, stopped, turned back, and looked at Edward. She noticed that his eyes were an unusual golden brown, but she didn't dwell on that and instead softly said, "I like someone. I'm waiting for him, so—" Bella spoke decisively, hoping that he wouldn't bother her further, as it would cause her trouble. "Is that so?" A hint of bitterness flashed across Edward's handsome, pale face, but he didn't persist. "I see. I'm sorry." After saying that, he passed by Bella with a hint of dejection and left the school. Outside in the school parking lot, amidst the bustling crowd and under the gloomy weather, the noisy atmosphere seemed even more chaotic, and the ground was somewhat slippery from the rain. Bella brushed past many students, walked to the opposite parking lot, and found her red Chevrolet pickup. She looked at her car, and it seemed as if she could hear Bai Zhao's words echoing in her ears. "She's a beauty." A smile involuntarily appeared on her beautiful and delicate face, but then it turned to melancholy. "How are you, Shaw? I'm really worried about you." Meanwhile, across the parking lot, the Cullen family was standing in front of their car, subtly observing Bella. "She looks quite troubled," Alice said softly. Rosalie gave a definitive response. "She's missing someone, another man who she can't forget." To leave such a deep impression on such an outstanding girl, one can't help but wonder just how remarkable that man is. Saying this, she glanced specifically at Edward, who was standing by the car, gazing at Bella. A touch of unwillingness flashed across her beautiful face. Edward didn't speak. His mind kept replaying Bella's every expression and movement, and thinking of her resolute words just now, he couldn't help but feel a bit lost. He didn't know what was wrong with him, but he couldn't control these emotions. Suddenly, his eyes sharpened, and the other Cullens also seemed to sense something, their gazes turning in another direction. Not far from Bella's red pickup stood a stranger whom no one had ever seen before. "It's him." Alice's pupils slightly widened, fear involuntarily showing on her pretty face. As for Bella, she snapped out of her reverie, silently sighed, and just as she was about to open the car door, her hand suddenly stopped. A strange feeling welled up in her heart. She stiffened for a moment, then instinctively turned her head to look to the right. A figure she had been yearning for was standing there, dressed in the same black jacket, white t-shirt, jeans, and white sneakers as the last time she saw him. With a tall build and handsome face, just standing there, he attracted the attention of many students. "John Shaw." Bella couldn't believe her eyes and instinctively called out. The boy responded with a brilliant smile, and Bella's eyes couldn't help but get a little misty. Stubbornly holding back her tears, she didn't care as her backpack slipped off her shoulder and ran towards the boy. Amid the astonished gazes of all the students, she threw herself into his arms. Rushing too fast, Bai Zhao leaned back to cushion her impact, wrapping his arms around her waist, while her head buried deeply in his neck, greedily inhaling his scent. "I've been thinking about you all the time, Shaw. You're finally back. I have so many questions to ask you. These days have nearly driven me crazy. I'm so glad to see you again." The girl couldn't suppress her emotions anymore and bravely spoke her true feelings. Bai Zhao held her tightly, and they hugged as if they wanted to merge into one. He hadn't expected that his absence would make her so brave. "I knew you were waiting for me, so I came back." Bai Zhao whispered softly in her ear, his words full of emotion, making Bella hold onto him even tighter. The two embraced in front of all the students, ignoring everything around them. Seeing such a scene, the students widened their eyes, and the momentary silence turned into an uproar. "Holy shit, who is that guy?" "Bella's brother." "Damn it. Why does he get to hug Bella? Could he be her boyfriend?" Didn't Bella just transfer here from Phoenix, Arizona? What did she find a boyfriend? Or did they know each other back in Arizona? It's crazy. Why does such a beautiful girl have to be taken? Shouldn't she stay single forever? Shut up, Borg. You know a girl like Bella can't stay single forever. Look at this scene, how beautiful it is. Don't you think that guy is handsome too? He even seems more charming than Edward. The students, watching Bella and Baishao embracing, started gossiping, with most of the boys being unable to accept it. Since Bella transferred, everyone knew she was the most beautiful girl in the school. Everyone had some little thoughts, but before they could make a move, they saw this frustrating scene. The girls, on the other hand, were enchanted by this romantic scene. A handsome man and a beautiful woman embracing passionately. If they could share a dreamlike kiss, it would be perfect. Despite this, they still watched with a smile, completely absorbed in the moment. Some were happy, while others were not. On the Cullen family side, Alice's face was full of fear, and the other family members were trying to comfort her. Edward, on the other hand, stared blankly, as if struck by lightning. Just a moment ago, Bella said she liked someone, and now that person appeared at school, doing all this right in front of him. Edward's gaze was also noticed by Baishao, who merely glanced at him. The aura of these young vampires was as conspicuous as a flame in the night to him. He was surprised that these vampires were different from the ones he had killed near New York. They were very clean in the literal sense. Vampires who had fed on human blood had distinctive traits. Their aura and smell carried a kind of stench that ordinary people couldn't detect. Many vampire hunters used these traits. These few in front of him were very clean and could even appear in the daylight. Even though there was no sunlight, they didn't show any discomfort, obviously a special kind of vampire. But what was with that male vampire's gaze? His emotions seemed quite complicated, this guy. Bai Zhao's expression became a bit odd. Was Bella that popular? She had only been at school for a few days and already had a young vampire interested in her. Let's go, Shaw. Charlie has been worried about you these days, too. Bella, snapping out of her joy and excitement, noticed the various gazes from all around. Her delicate face turned red, and she quickly pulled away from Bai Zhao's embrace, taking his hand and walking towards the red Chevrolet truck. Picking up her backpack along the way, Bella got into the driver's seat, while Bai Zhao sat in the passenger seat. Under Edward's longing gaze and the puzzled and cautious looks from Alice and the other Cullens, the red Chevrolet pickup drove Bella and Bai Zhao away from school. Bella and that man have many secrets we can't imagine. Edward, you should give up. Rosalie, seeing Edward's expression, said in a slightly annoyed tone. Edward didn't answer, silently watching the red pickup truck gradually disappear from his sight. On the road, Bella, driving with excitement, began to ask questions. You know, I have so many questions. The necklace you gave me, it's truly incredible. Shaw, who exactly are you? Batman? A Kryptonian? An angel? A mutant? As Bella spoke, she didn't forget to glance at the boy beside her, who was watching her with a smile. Bai Zhao knocked on the window sill. You should keep your eyes on the road, Bella. Don't you have anything you want to tell me? Having expressed her feelings, Bella wasn't holding back. Bai Zhao had suddenly entered her world in an unimaginable way, displaying incredible abilities. She was eager to understand the man she liked, wanting to be a part of his life. She didn't want to be clueless or worry about him suddenly disappearing one day, leaving her alone to worry and cry. My world is very dangerous, Bella. Are you determined to truly understand everything? I don't care about danger. I just know I don't want there to be an insurmountable gap between us. Bella wasn't afraid of death. On the contrary, she feared a life without Bai Zhao. As long as she could be with the one she loved, no matter how many dangers she faced, she wouldn't fear, retreat, or hesitate. Danger is not really an issue. Given Bai Zhao's current level, there was basically no one on Earth who could threaten Bella. After killing Asmodius and further elevating his existence, not even the Ancient One could threaten him. All right, I'll tell you everything. Looking into the boy's eyes, Bella's lips curled into a smile. Suppressing her happiness and joy, she drove seriously, bringing Bai Zhao back home. Bai Zhao's muscle car was still parked in front of the house, with a pickup parked next to it. Bella, carrying her backpack, holding Bai Xiao's hand, unlocked the door. At this time, Charlie hadn't come home from work yet, so Bella took Bai Xiao to the second floor, to her room. A girl willing to bring a boy to her room meant that her heart had already been opened by him. Bella was no exception. This wasn't Bai Xiao's first time in Bella's room. He had broken in once a week ago at night, which was an accident. This time, it was more formal. Bella's room wasn't large, but it was warmly decorated. Bai Xiao took a brief look around. Bella, feeling a bit shy, put her backpack down and led Bai Xiao to sit on the soft bed. Bella looked at Bai Xiao seriously, with an expression of, "You should explain everything," which was very cute. Seeing this, Bai Xiao couldn't help but laugh. This laugh made Bella break down and laugh as well. But then she felt something was off and quickly slapped Bai Xiao, asking him to be serious. "All right, well, where should I start? Let me start with myself." After being warned by her gaze, Bai Xiao stopped laughing and began to speak. At his level, if he really wanted to find a lover, there would be nothing to hide. He could feel the girl's burning love, which was genuine. "I come from China. When I was young, I moved to New York with my parents. But after a few years, due to an accident, my mother was killed in a shootout and my father died suddenly at work. For the next few years, I dropped out of school and started working. But my skin color made me face injustice and bullying. In despair, I finally exploded. I awakened my abilities. Hatred became my nourishment, and I began my revenge." At this point, he looked at Bella and said softly, "I have killed many people, Bella, many people." Bella's beautiful eyes welled up with tears. She looked at him, approached, and hugged him, resting her head on his shoulder, and softly said, "I told you I don't care, Shaw, and I know you're not a bad person." A very classic line. Revenge made me lose myself. Have you heard of the Rainy Night Butcher? Holding the girl's shoulder with one hand, Bai Xiao slightly altered the story and received the girl's affirmative response. The girl raised her head in surprise and looked at Bai Xiao. "You're the Rainy Night Butcher?" "Yeah." Later, through another accident, I discovered vampires and saw how they brutalized humans. I woke up from my hatred and embarked on the path of hunting vampires. I fought with the progenitor blood god of the vampires, saved several innocent students who were being used as sacrifices, and fought against the ancient old god that was summoned. I also met a group of sorcerers who quietly guard this world, learned magic from them, and discovered the truth of this world. I am destined to walk a blood-soaked path, Bella. Bai Xiao and Bella gazed deeply into each other's eyes. Bella did not waste words, and directly leaned in. The two kissed, feeling each other's warmth, with intense love flowing in their hearts. After a while, the sound of the front door opening came from downstairs, accompanied by the voice of Bella's father, Charlie. "Bella, you're back." Hearing her father's voice, Bella, like a startled deer, hastily pulled away, her delicate face flushed with redness. "I'm back." Bella glanced at Bai Xiao with her bright eyes, stood up, and shyly patted Bai Xiao. Bai Xiao whispered, "We should go downstairs, Bella. If we delay any longer, Charlie won't let me go. I don't want to end up at the police station. I won't let him do that, and I believe Charlie will support me." After speaking, Bella pulled Bai Xiao downstairs. On the first floor, Charlie, dressed in his police uniform, had just finished changing into clean shoes at the door. When he stood up straight, he saw Bella and Bai Xiao coming down from upstairs. The old father's eyes widened, staring blankly at Bai Xiao and his daughter, especially at the blush on his daughter's face. "Shaw." The old father looked at Bai Xiao in disbelief. "When did this guy come back? And it looks like he went to his daughter's room?" "Hey, Charlie. So, aren't you going to explain?" "Charlie." Bella angrily looked at her father. Charlie snorted like an angry bull, but seeing his daughter's angry face, he could only helplessly act like he didn't see it. He walked to the kitchen, took out 2 cans of beer from the fridge, and handed one to Bai Xiao. "Okay, looks like we need to talk, kid." Late at night, in the RV outside the door, Charlie, now wearing a regular brown jacket and t-shirt, sat in a chair with a beer in hand. Some steak and other food were on the table in front of him. Bai Xiao, sitting opposite, clinked his beer can with Charlie's and then drank it down. "I investigated you, Shaw, ever since that incident. Uh-huh. Your record is very clean, too clean, but there's something not normal about that. Also, the case in Chino Town was secretly archived. I asked my old friends, and they were tight-lipped about it. What happened that night? And who were those two guys who left with you? I don't care. But you have to know, my daughter is just an ordinary person, and she's my only daughter. I can't let her get hurt in any sense. Charlie, now somewhat drunk, spoke with a fatherly concern for his daughter. But I know I can't oppose you. During the days you were gone, I could see Bella looking lost and heartbroken. So, you have to promise me, Shaw, you can't let her get hurt or heartbroken. Charlie gripped his beer can, staring at Bai Xiao. I promise, Charlie. Okay. Charlie nodded, not saying whether he believed it or not, just downing his beer in one gulp, stood up, patted Bai Xiao on the shoulder, and left the RV, returning home. Bai Xiao, standing in front of the RV, looked at Charlie's retreating figure, then glanced up at the second floor, seeing Bella standing by the window. He gently waved. Bella smiled, and then disappeared from the window. Bai Xiao watched as the room's light dimmed, turned around, and looked in another direction, where a Chevrolet SUV was parked not far down the street. The car door opened, and Natasha and Barton got out, walking up to Bai Xiao. You really are elusive, Shaw. Natasha spoke first. But something surprising happened, if possible. However, before she could finish speaking, Bai Xiao suddenly reached out and grabbed her by the neck, lifting her off the ground. Barton, seeing this, immediately wanted to draw his gun, but a glance from Bai Xiao made him feel as if the world was collapsing, unable to move in the endless abyss of darkness. Barton froze in place as Bai Xiao, gripping Natasha's neck, said, "Although well disguised, you shouldn't have appeared in front of me. A demon came to find me. Who are you?" Exposed by Bai Xiao's words, the originally struggling Natasha immediately stopped moving, looking quietly at Bai Xiao with an extraordinary possessiveness in her eyes, as if she wanted to devour him whole. Waves of seductive power emanated from her body. The enchanting voice echoed in Bai Xiao's ears, seemingly trying to lead him into temptation. But Bai Xiao's will and mental strength were so strong that he built countless layers of mental defenses in his own mind, protecting his soul so thoroughly that no temptation could shake his will. You are truly beautiful, with a unique beauty. I wish to share countless wonderful nights with you. Natasha's face was full of charm, especially her eyes that seemed to shimmer enough to erode a man's will. If you want that, tell me your name and location, and I'll come to you personally. Haha, able to kill my husband? I wouldn't dare let you find me so easily, my dear. Lilith. Bai Xiao's eyes narrowed. Bai Xiao's eyes gradually brightened. Looking at Natasha before him, he softly said, "Since you take me as your lover and want me to spend the night with you, then let me come to find you. I'm also very curious to see how beautiful Lilith, who once captivated Asmodius, truly is. Don't you want to possess me? I can't wait any longer." Bai Xiao was already eager to rush to Lilith's location, draw his sword, and kill her. Another demon of Lord level had voluntarily come to him. Asmodius had already enabled him to make a significant leap in his Sky Father Life's level. He believed that Lilith's essence would certainly not be inferior to Asmodius. Moreover, since they were husband and wife, lovers, naturally they should die together. Bai Xiao behaved like a normal man, but Lilith appeared very cautious. She did not rush, but looked at the human boy with affection. His handsome face, upright figure, and vibrant body all fascinated her. She gazed at Bai Xiao tenderly and said gently, "Believe me, my dear, I can't wait to appear before you and let you possess me, but now is not the time. There's a severe upheaval in hell. The issues left by Asmodius have led to over 10 demon lords fighting for them. I must resolve this problem. Asmodius has something I want. I need to retrieve it so I can become the complete Lilith. I cannot appear before you incomplete, my dear." After saying this, the Natasha and Barton before him emitted black and purple gases and completely disappeared. It turned out that both Natasha and Barton were creations of Lilith's deceptive magic, crafted to be extremely realistic, almost like real people. Lilith's capabilities were indeed impressive. If Bai Xiao were not at the top level in perception, he might not have seen through it either. Having Lilith come to him suddenly, Bai Xiao felt nothing but regret. A demon lord of that size, choosing to voluntarily offer herself to him, perfecting the script for love, it was such a perfect scenario, unfortunately skewed from the start. Bai Xiao also understood that Lilith, no matter how foolish, knew how fierce he was. Asmodius, her former lover, provoked Bai Xiao and was directly killed by him in hell. No matter how infatuated Lilith was, she would not run to Bai Xiao recklessly. Moreover, Lilith, being a demon lord, could not be a simple, infatuated girl. He believed she had an interest in him and intended to possess him. As for her calling him my dear, he just listened but did not take it seriously. Lilith was entirely like a black widow, draining every man dry before cruelly killing them. Such a character, in Bai Xiao's eyes, was just experience. In fact, unless it was Queen Morgana, Bai Xiao had little affection for demons. The only good demon to him was a dead one, like Asmodius. Looking at the night, Bai Xiao whistled, his face full of joy. Who would have thought, having just killed a demon lord and preparing to rest for a few days, a naive one would come to him voluntarily? What a beautiful day. Bai Xiao looked forward to his next encounter with Lilith, ready to give her a big surprise. In a luxurious, grand, and splendid hall, the walls were not solid, but like energy vortices, with endless starry skies and the brilliant universe seemingly within them. At the center of this structure, a round landmark rose with many layers of steps, at the top of which stood a man in golden armor, a black man wearing a helmet, his solemn face and sharp gaze partially visible. Beside him stood a beautifully crafted large sword. Boom! Suddenly, a vortex-like passage swirled beside him, and several figures abruptly emerged. Leading them was a burly blond man in armor, a red cape, holding a hammer. Damn it! Have the demons in hell gone mad? Why are they rushing into other realms like lunatics? A burly man in armor, wielding an axe, shouted loudly, his armor showing many damages, indicating a recent fierce battle. The others were also injured, except for a handsome black-haired man in a green robe and helmet who remained unscathed. Thor, have you found out the reason? The tall figure standing on the steps came down, his voice deep. We captured a demon and got some information from him. He said hell is in chaos. Recently, a demon lord was killed by an unknown god, leaving behind vast territories and treasures, causing disputes. The other demon lords joined the fight, and other forces tried to take advantage. This affected the demons of that kingdom, leading to many being slaughtered. To survive, some demons fled and intruded into other realms under Asgard's control. This caused massive casualties and chaos. The blond man with the hammer, Thor, explained and then continued to ask, Heimdall, what do you know about that war the demon mentioned? My eyes cannot see into the hell dimension. If we want information, we need other methods. Thor, you know our ways to get information. The guardian called Heimdall shook his head. It seems so. Hogun, this matter is up to you. Find the informants. I believe such a big event in hell would not escape their notice. Thor looked at his companion, the black-haired warrior Hogun, who silently nodded. Loki, Sif, you lead an army to Alfheim. Do not let those fleeing demons disturb the elves. Volstagg, Fandral, and I will go to Vanaheim. After Bai Xiao returned, he didn't hurry to leave Forks. After all, Bella's presence made him decide to stay for a while. However, the hug between Bella and Bai Xiao at school drew widespread attention from the students. It also sparked a lot of heated discussions. Similarly, it caught the attention of the Cullen family. That day, Bai Xiao arrived at school with Bella on a cool black Ducati motorcycle. After Bella sweetly kissed Bai Xiao, she handed him the helmet and walked happily towards the school. Along the way, many students greeted Bella, and she responded to each of them in good spirits. Of course, there were also a few friends she met at school. Eric, the Korean student, and Mike Newton felt somewhat downcast, as they both initially had a crush on Bella. But after learning Bella had a boyfriend, they gave up completely, thinking it was good enough to be friends. Bai Xiao watched Bella, who kept turning back to look at him. He waved with a smile, then got on his motorcycle and prepared to leave. Before leaving, he glanced back towards the school. This glance made Dr. Carlisle Cullen, who was secretly observing from the second-floor corridor window, stagger back a little. A trace of unnaturalness flashed across his mature, handsome, pale face. Having heard from Alice that a strange Asian boy had arrived at the school, whom Alice believed to be the figure in her vision, Carlisle Cullen found this unusual. By coincidence, he observed the boy and was surprised by how sensitive he was, even with just a casual glance. Although Carlisle was a vampire with senses far beyond human capability, he felt an immense fear from the boy. Even though the boy showed no malice, this in itself was telling. It meant that the boy possessed a power that could instill fear in him. The boy's life level far surpassed that of Carlisle, a vampire. This feeling, not even the local werewolves or elders of other vampire families could give him. It really is, as Alice said, indeed very dangerous. Muttering to himself, Carlisle instead showed a smile, knowing that today confirmed that the boy wouldn't pose a threat to the Cullen family. At least they didn't need to flee elsewhere. Carlisle loved this town. If possible, he preferred to stay here forever. So, our Mr. Butcher is now in Forks, dating a white girl? This is the useful information you gathered? In the Long Island headquarters office, Nick Fury looked at Natasha on the computer screen with a stern face. Natasha, dressed in a floral blouse and sunglasses, sat outside a coffee shop in downtown Forks, a laptop on the table and earphones in her ears. She appeared to be enjoying a leisurely vacation. Yes, sir. I think there's no other useful information besides this. If you need, I can send you the background information on that girl named Bella. As Natasha spoke, Barton, also in a jacket and sunglasses, came out of the coffee shop with 2 cups of coffee, handed one to Natasha, received a thank you, and sat down to enjoy his coffee. Today's weather in Forks was very bright and sunny, which greatly lifted Natasha and Barton's spirits. After all, this place was gloomy and rainy for more than half the time in a month. No one liked constant rain. Natasha preferred to show off her figure on the beach, basking in the sun. Seeing his 2 top agents slacking off made Fury even more displeased. You know what I want to know? Sorry, sir. You know what we went through. He disappeared for a week, and we almost turned the whole world upside down without finding any trace of him. So, the information involved here is beyond our reach. Natasha shrugged. She joined this so-called Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division to escape pursuit and ensure her safety. She also hoped to ease her conscience by carrying out missions. She had stained her hands with countless people's blood in the Red Room, a sin she couldn't forget. Essentially, Natasha wanted to survive. Bai Xiao was an extremely dangerous and uncontrollable person. Especially in the last encounter in Chino Town, she and Barton were hunted by a demon in the truest sense. After calling for help, Bai Xiao completely disappeared, vanishing in front of a woman's portrait in the police station storage room. Fury even used most of his resources and power to search for Bai Xiao, but found nothing. So where had this boy gone? This question was worth pondering. The bigger the secret, the more dangerous it usually is. Natasha could handle dangerous missions, those that were life-threatening, because it was her profession. But when it involved mysterious powers, she was at a complete loss. This wasn't just about death. If it touched on the soul, it was more than just death. For the first time, Natasha and Barton defied Fury's orders. They declared a vacation for themselves, embracing a rebellious attitude that left Fury speechless. Looking at the computer screen showing Natasha and Barton leisurely drinking coffee, Fury remained expressionless. Although he desperately wanted to know what happened to Bai Xiao during those days, he understood it was impossible, unless he personally got involved, but Fury didn't want to alter the plan prematurely. After a moment of silence, he said, "You can come back. Mission terminated. You will have a new task soon. You have 2 days to rest. After that, you need to set off to track a new target." "Yes, sir." The laptop screen dimmed, and Natasha and Barton exchanged a knowing smile. The day remained gloomy. Deep in the mountains southwest of Forkstown, Xiao rode a Ducati motorcycle with Bella to the top of the mountain. Green was the only color in Forks, giving it a cold and eerie appearance, like a classic scene from a horror movie. In the depths of the mountains, the greenery was vibrant, and the rain made the forest very humid. Casually parking the bike and setting up the stand, Xiao led Bella to a cliff at the mountain's peak. From this vantage point, they could overlook the dense forest and the lake ahead. "Bella, have you ever thought about learning magic?" Xiao and Bella stood at the edge of the cliff. Indeed, Xiao intended to teach Bella magic. Bella was just an ordinary person. Without the necklace he gave her, she might be physically weaker than most girls. Compared to someone like him, who had reached a transcendental level of existence, almost akin to a demigod, her lifespan was extremely short. With his current level of life, living for 100,000 years would be easy. Moreover, due to the unique properties of magic, which could stimulate cell division and nourish cellular activity, this time could potentially be infinitely extended. Xiao did not believe in the notion that love is brief, yet brilliant like fireworks. Furthermore, this world was fraught with dangers. Any misstep could lead to injury or death due to some unforeseen event. Regardless of the reason, he had to ensure Bella had enough power to guarantee her own safety. Currently, the most suitable means is magic. What he intended to teach was his improved version of magic. Given his current magical prowess, he could easily modify basic to advanced magic into his own system without any pressure. The challenge was that Bella's body lacked energy. Xiao had already thought of a solution to this. Magic? Can I learn it? In the Western world, magic was a power that countless people dreamed of, both in childhood and adulthood. No one would refuse the opportunity to become a magician. Bella naturally felt the same way. The difference was Bella was more eager to learn magic so that she could stand beside Xiao one day and offer her help. Of course, the language of magic has existed since the dawn of civilization. Long ago, sorcerers called this language spells. If translated into modern terms, it could be understood as a program, constructing the source code of the real world. Sorcerers gather energy, drawing from other spaces in the vast universe, reciting spells to forge shields and weapons, thus performing magic. For example, upon receiving Bella's affirmative response, Xiao began explaining the most basic knowledge of magic. In the end, he demonstrated by forming a simple yet elegant magic circle in the air with deft hand movements. A golden thread of light began to flow with his fingertips, forming a brilliant pattern that floated quietly in the air. Bella's delicate face was filled with awe. This is based on the foundational concepts and knowledge of magic from the sorcerers of Kamartaj. Due to my unique circumstances, I bypassed the process of drawing energy from the distant universe. After some improvements, I developed a magic system that suits me best. The difference in this magic system is not significant. What you need to do most is to draw from my energy and understand the basic knowledge of magic. Draw from your energy? Bella was puzzled. How is this different from drawing energy from other multiverse spaces? The world requires a price for everything. The same applies to magic. Sorcerers from the very beginning are just ordinary people. Their bodies cannot generate or store energy, so they need to borrow energy from other dimensional spaces to help them cast spells. But this also comes at a cost. When they draw energy, they essentially sign a contract with the master of that dimensional space's energy. This contract becomes effective upon their death, and the cost is very high. Unless one reaches the level of the Ancient One, who could default on a high-interest loan without repayment. How many can become like the Ancient One? So, you don't need to learn this method. Bella understood this point. Bai Xiao had paved the way for her. She only needed to borrow Bai Xiao's energy. As for the price, Bella could already imagine some intimate scenes, with a blush spreading across her delicate face. Seeing Bella's expression, Bai Xiao couldn't help but tap her head. For now, learn the basic knowledge first. The necklace I gave you can connect to my dimensional space, automatically replenishing magical power and gradually enhancing your physical attributes. I understand. Subsequently, Xiao transferred a portion of the foundational magical knowledge he had learned to Bella through mental transmission. This portion of knowledge was already vast. Do not be deceived by how he seemingly mastered the basic to advanced magic of Kamar Taj within a year. In reality, his example was not replicable. When he went to Kamar Taj, his life level had already undergone several leaps of evolution. His brain was more powerful than a supercomputer. He could completely memorize and quickly digest any information he saw. For an ordinary person to fully grasp this basic magical knowledge, it would take years. The amount of information was enormous. Bella, being an ordinary person, had limited capacity for information processing. Transmitting all the basic magical knowledge at once could overwhelm her mind. This had to be done step by step. The advantage of this transmission method was that it saved a lot of time and prevented forgetting. Later, Bai Xiao used various magic spells to broaden Bella's horizons. By evening, after sending Bella home, Bai Xiao returned to his RV and began contemplating his ideas. He planned to construct something akin to a sorcerer's tower, a floating city, or to the heavenly court of the angels from the Transcending God, Xiong Bing Lian. Similar to the dimensional space he created to store magical power, he intended to integrate this space with his new concept. It would not only store magical power, but also serve many other functions. He anchored the dimensional space within his mental realm. After the previous battle in Hell, he discovered this hidden danger. The anchor point that links the dimensional space can be easily interfered with by external forces. If faced with an opponent who specializes in mental power, psychic abilities, or who targets this specific weakness, they could disrupt him, preventing him from drawing the immense magic power from the dimensional space. This would completely block his most powerful trump card. Bai Xiao needed to relocate his self-created dimensional world elsewhere. Remote support, which could be unlocked using his magic as a key, would be unstoppable unless someone with greater power killed him instantly. Otherwise, there would be no way to prevent him from activating max mode. The incident with Bella also reminded him of his desire to build a golden city. The golden city is a habitable city that could also become a highly destructive weapon. It would serve as an alternative sorcerer tower created by sorcerers. Sorcerer towers help sorcerers improve their efficiency in learning magic, enhance their magical power, and can serve as a magical turret to attack enemies by transmitting energy. The Golden City could be considered a large-scale weapon. If Odin's artifact is the Eternal Spear Gungnir and the Destroyer Armor, then Bai Xiao's weapon could be the Golden City. If he had one or even multiple Golden Cities, Bai Xiao could counterattack when faced with multiple opponents of the same level. Extending this idea further, within the Golden City, he could construct a Zodiac Palace, where each palace is interconnected, forming a multi-layered magical weapon to attack enemies. The Zodiac Palace could automatically link up and initiate a combined attack. He could also grant Bella subordinate permissions, allowing her to open the Golden City and receive remote support or enter the Golden City for safety, even in his absence. Bai Xiao's strategy was to eliminate any potential threats against him. If he successfully constructed multiple Golden Cities, he could directly invade Hell and officially start a new mission, without fear of being surrounded by multiple demon lords. Not just Hell, Heaven was also a viable target. This greatly expanded his list of potential targets. The beginning from 0 to 1 is the most difficult. Building the first Golden City requires enormous resources, magical knowledge, and time. Sitting on the sofa in the RV, Bai Xiao estimated with a frown. In his vision, the Golden City existed between reality and illusion. It could become real or shift to illusion, appearing tangible but unattainable, sounding fantastical and indeed being so. However, Bai Xiao did not find it difficult because it involved vast magical knowledge that he possessed. The real challenge was the resources and materials required for construction, and a massive engineering effort needed to form a cohesive whole from singular units. Additionally, there were the attack systems, defense systems, and concealment systems, which required extensive time to develop. Energy, originally the biggest problem, turned out to be the least challenging. The energy core to support the operation of the Golden City could be sustained by Zhao's dimensional space at the current stage. The dimensional space is the core magic behind Zhao's max mode and other techniques. It could securely store and compress Zhao's magic without loss, with dense magic circuits inside that could regenerate stored magic through replication. This meant Zhao did not need to worry about replenishing the magic in his dimensional space after massive consumption. This characteristic was akin to the dark dimension of Dormammu or the magic dimension of Ishani, both containing the knowledge to create everything, following the iron laws of the universe. Once a dimensional space was constructed, it could support the operation of a golden city. Building a second one would be much easier, allowing for further expansion. One unit could form a collective, creating a whole. This was the essence of infinite recursion. One person could become an army. It would be impossible for anyone to rely on numbers to besiege Zhao in the future. Zhao knocked on the table while sitting on the sofa, his mind racing. He quickly simulated the construction of the Golden City in his mental world, identifying and perfecting every necessary detail and loophole until dawn. After completing the simulation, Zhao found himself floating before a vast and magnificent city in his mental world. The city floated quietly in the sky, forming a gigantic whole in his perspective, presented as a 3D image. Within the enormous city, every brick, every area, wall, and building formed an integrated whole. The city was also enveloped by multiple magical barriers, creating an almost perfect system. The details of the construction are complete, but actualizing it requires substantial material support. Zhao muttered, thinking it over and concluding that he needed to resort to looting and plundering. Currently, he considered Hela a prime source of abundant resources necessary for constructing the Golden City. There were also significant resources among various forces in the universe. Asgard was not an option for now, due to Odin being a ticking time bomb, and Asgard itself housed the Valhalla. Valhalla contained a large number of past Asgardian kings, warriors, and armies. If he dealt with Odin, the madman in Valhalla would surely emerge when Asgard fell. This would not be worth the risk. It was better to establish good relations, learn the runes, URU metal, and craftsmanship of the dwarves through peaceful means. After all, Thor would eventually squander everything, so it would be better to take it all for himself before then. But he needed to wait 2 years to meet Odin. In the meantime, he could plunder other places. Camartage had been almost drained, leaving little to exploit. Now, the best options for him were Hell and regions beyond the Milky Way and the solar system. Alternatively, he could even loot the Kree Empire. The Kree Empire is one of the 3 oldest empires in the galaxy. They established a vast empire in the large Magellanic Cloud, and the Kree have been living on the planet Hala in the Palma system since long before the first mammals appeared on Earth. The original Kree had blue skin, but another race emerged thousands of years later. Currently, the blue-skinned, purebred Kree are a small but powerful minority. The Kree's bodies are largely similar to humans. The environment on Hala, unlike Earth, features higher gravity and a higher nitrogen content in the atmosphere. Although the Kree cannot breathe Earth's atmosphere without special equipment, their dense bodies make their strength and endurance twice that of the average human. Additionally, the Kree's technological civilization is exceptionally advanced. Their permanent ruler is an organic computer structure known as the Supreme Intelligence, a vast computer system connected to the preserved brains of the Kree greatest minds. The highest intelligence agency is composed of some imperial administrators from Kreelar, who are appointed as governors for each member planet, along with a large standing space militia. The Empire also employs powerful robotic sentinels to monitor member worlds. Their weapon technology is also highly advanced. For example, positron spheres can produce escalating radiation that ultimately leads to destructive explosions from their antimatter cores, destroying large structures. Hyperspace bolts can be launched to interstellar distances to destroy targets, with devastating power capable of destroying worlds. Using super radio, they can achieve instantaneous communication across vast interstellar distances at 22 times the speed of light without any time-space delay. One of the most lethal warships in the Kree interstellar fleet is the Star-class battlecruiser, which is 5,000 meters long and weighs less than 1 million tons. These Imperial dreadnoughts are said to possess enough power to destroy entire solar systems. Antimatter missiles are weapons on their large dreadnoughts, capable of breaking planets and turning stars into supernovae. This information comes from a cosmic compendium in Kamartaj, detailing the 3 major empires. Kamartaj monitors all potential threats to Earth beyond the world, and the Kree Empire is one of them. The Kree Empire is a standard colonial empire. They have always maintained attention to Earth, and Kamartaj never ignores such threats. In terms of technology, they are actually capable of threatening the Skyfather. They possess a plethora of advanced technologies, not just the Kree Empire, but also the Skrull Empire and the Shi'ar Empire. Many of their classified information is unknown to him, and rashly going there might cause unforeseen incidents, which do not align with his current development tone. His growth tone has always been based on killing to obtain life essence as the main line, with other activities, such as learning magic, constructing his own magical system, or creating the Golden City, being branches off this main line. The Kree Empire has the resources he needs, but not the other super life forms he requires to plunder life essence. Compared to the Kree Empire, the Shi'ar Empire and the Skrull Empire are more suitable, as they have Gladiator and Super Skrull. However, Bai Xiao ultimately gave up, purely because he felt this was not as big as Hell. Hell has resources that meet his needs and many demon lords. After clearing Hell, there is Heaven, with even more abundant resources. The original intention cannot change. He hasn't cleared the dungeon, so how can he easily switch? Bai Xiao ultimately decided to target Lilith. Every demon lord has vast territories, especially a pleasure-loving demon like Lilith, whose territory is filled with countless resources. It looks like I need to take a stroll in Hell. Lilith, your lover is coming to find you. Bai Xiao's lips curled into a cold smile. In a holiday hotel in Las Vegas, 3 extraordinary guests arrived. An old man leading them, wearing a brown helmet and an armored coat, a white woman in a pretty dress with a round hat and sunglasses, and a burly man. Despite their attire, there was no panic in the hotel. The waiters professionally extended their white-gloved hands, leading the 3 guests to the most prestigious top-floor suite. They took the elevator to the top floor of the hotel. After opening the door to the luxurious suite for the 3 guests, the waiters turned and left. The 3 of them walked straight in. The spacious and luxurious living room of the suite came into view. The floor was covered with red carpet. A delicate crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling, and there was a large floor-to-ceiling window at the end. In front of the window, there was a pool, and various furniture, sofas, and expensive paintings hung on the walls. Everything revealed its luxurious specifications. On the sofa in the living room sat a pale-skinned blonde woman, with a delicate face, an aura of arrogance like a princess, wearing a white floral dress and crystal high heels. Long time no see, Emma, the leading old man, along with the 2 beside him, walked over. He spoke upon meeting, his voice not loud, but full of authority. No need to be polite. Sit down, Eric and Raven. Is this Victor, Logan's brother? The woman was one of the strongest telepaths in the world, Emma Grace Frost, also known as the White Queen. As for the 3 sitting on the sofa in front of Emma, especially the old man in the dark brown helmet, he was Eric, also known as Magneto, one of the most powerful mutants in the world, along with his followers, Mystique Raven and Sabretooth Victor. Are you ready to join the Brotherhood, Emma? Magneto Eric looked at his old friend in front of him, smiling, a rarity compared to his usual indifference. This Eric, considered the most terrifying mutant by mainstream media, never hesitated to smile at his admired compatriots. Emma certainly fit this condition. I've always been free, Eric. Your philosophy never suited me. It didn't before, and it doesn't now. You are still the same as before. Eric's voice turned cold. The White Queen and her Hellfire Club have always operated on the principle of self-interest, aligning neither with Charles nor with him. However, the Hellfire Club is home to many powerful mutants. Eric had tried to recruit the White Queen more than once, but each time he was met with refusal. This frustrated Eric, who has always fought for the mutant race. Emma knew this, but she didn't care whether Eric was angry or not because she had brought him a bargaining chip. "I want to make a deal with you, Eric." "What deal?" "I want you to find someone for me, by any means necessary, and make him willingly join the Hellfire Club." Emma picked up the wine glass from the glass table in front of her, gently swirling the wine inside, with a smile in her eyes. "If it's someone you value, Emma, he must not be simple. I'm very curious who he is." Magneto, Eric's aged voice, carried a hint of surprise, and his eyes flickered. White Queen Emma did not elaborate, but instead mentioned another person. "I've spent 2 years finding a mutant that I think will interest you very much. If it weren't for this deal, I wouldn't want to hand him over to you." Magneto looked at Emma without speaking, and Emma continued, unconcerned, "His name is Joshua Foley. He can control the molecular structure of his own and others' bodies, theoretically rewriting genetic structures at will. He can generate biomolecular energy to affect organic matter he touches, allowing him to heal physical injuries, activate and inhibit mutant abilities, and repair brain functions. Additionally, it has been proven that he can regenerate damaged or completely removed tissue, although he hasn't yet reached his full potential. I think a mutant like him would definitely interest you. With him as a bargaining chip, are you willing to make this deal with me, Eric?" Hearing Emma out, even a cunning old fox like Magneto couldn't help but change his expression. "Do you know what you're saying, Emma?" "Of course, I wouldn't exaggerate the value of the chip itself." Emma showed a charming smile, sipping from her wine glass. "An Omega-level healing ability that can also activate mutant powers. Using him as a bargaining chip, I'm more curious about whom you want to invite." Magneto knew all too well the value of such a mutant. An Omega-level healing ability is already very special, theoretically capable of rewriting genetic structures. If this Joshua Foley had enough resources and manpower, he would have the power to create a new human race akin to God. Furthermore, he could eliminate useless genes from mutants and activate mutant abilities. Such a person was so precious that Magneto could barely contain his excitement and had thoughts of seizing him. Any deal seemed irrelevant. He just wanted to take the man by force. However, rationality told Magneto he couldn't do that because he knew Emma well. Since she dared to invite him, she must have a way to ensure her safety, and that boy was likely well hidden. After rationalizing, Magneto was also curious about who could make Emma spend such a precious bargaining chip. "His name is John Shaw, a powerful telepath like me, perhaps even stronger," Emma happily revealed, her fox-like eyes curved. "If that's all, I don't think it's worth such a price, Emma. Let's put it this way. I agreed to play a game with him. Unfortunately, 2 years have passed, and he's hidden very well. I couldn't find him. Recently, he reappeared, but I didn't dare face him, so I found you, Eric." Emma said honestly, "A game." Magneto, Eric chuckled. What else could he say? A mutant that even moved him was just a bargaining chip for a game. The world had indeed become crazy. "So what's your answer, Eric?" "I agree. I'll bring him to you, as long as he's alive, right?" Magneto was confident. A mere telepath was no match for him. Emma looked at Magneto's confident demeanor and reminded him, "I only said he has powerful telepathic abilities like mine. He might have other means. Eric, don't underestimate him." "That's my business, Emma. Prepare the boy I need. I want to see him on the day of the deal." "You really haven't changed at all. Additionally, you'll need to find this person yourselves. I've already passed his appearance to Raven." Eric glanced at Raven beside him, who nodded in response. So Eric, Raven, and Victor stood up and left without another word. Emma sat on the sofa, unconcerned with Magneto's arrogance. She placed the wine glass in front of her, gently swirling it and watching the liquid spin inside. She smiled. "You hid deeper than I thought. I hope you enjoy the surprise I prepared for you, boy." In a cafe in Forkstown, Bella, wearing a black t-shirt, looked at the boy opposite her with a delicate face showing reluctance. Are you leaving? Yes, I'm going to hell. Hell. I have a new target in hell. She's my target. You know, I'll always be here waiting for you. I understand. I'll be back soon. Bai Xiao smiled lightly. The girl didn't pout or complain, forbidding him from leaving, a trait he liked very much. After speaking, he gently tapped Bella's forehead with his finger, transmitting a message through telepathy. Spend some time mastering it. It will grant you my magic in times of danger. This magic was a key to his dimensional world. It would transfer power in times of crisis and construct a defense and trigger an attack in Bella's mental world. Hell is typically represented by various dimensions, each known as a hell. Each dimension has a lord, who may be referred to as a demon lord or hell lord. These dimensions construct the framework of hell. Of course, these dimensions are interconnected, and the ruler of hell is known by the title of Satan. Many hell lords have self-proclaimed the title of Satan, but none have willingly taken Satan's throne. Such an action would either indicate the power to dominate other hell lords or lead to a grand war among the hell lords of various dimensions. Hence, when the hell lords need to make a collective decision on a significant event, they usually convene a round-table meeting. Asmodius was killed, and his kingdom became the subject of a round-table meeting where the hell lords planned to divide it among themselves. However, the ensuing conflicts of interest led to a chaotic skirmish that resembled a stage play. In reality, it was merely a standoff. Demon lords do not easily engage in battle, so they defaulted to having their demons invade Asmodius's territory to seize land and resources. This resulted in many demon deaths and a mass exodus of demons from Asmodius's land. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Lilith, another demon lord, a stranger, arrived. Lilith's territory is also a dimension in hell, larger than Asmodius in size, with more resources and cities. There are cities in hell. Some cities are similar to those in the human world, depending on the preferences of the demon lords. Demon lords who enjoy comfort and luxury usually build their domains accordingly. Lilith is such a demon lord. She enjoys human lifestyles, frequently visiting Earth and assuming various identities to seduce men and lead them to a pleasurable death. Due to hell's unique nature, the cities can only support demon life. The environment and scenery are pure post-apocalyptic wastelands, with neon lights flickering weakly amidst the harsh surroundings. Demons construct various buildings using methods like melting, entangling, blending, and integrating different objects, resulting in rough and exaggerated shapes. This describes only the outer layer of Lilith's capital. The core is entirely different, with vegetation, trees, forests, flowers, and brighter buildings, featuring intricate designs. At the center stands a massive ancient castle, seemingly with a long history. The enormous castle is surrounded by trees and vegetation, positioned on a hill overlooking the city. Bai Xiao walks through the city's streets, observing the architectural styles. Demons, orcs, undead, humanoids, and beast forms of all shapes and sizes, but none exceeding 3 meters, roam the streets. Generally, powerful demons have large bodies, but some have normal sizes. The current situation is clearly due to Lilith's rules, even making many demons appear in human form, aligning with Lilith's preferences. As Bai Xiao walks openly in Lilith's city, the other demons seem not to notice him. Using concealment magic, Bai Xiao can remain undetected, even by Lilith if he wishes. Bai Xiao glances at the bustling shops, bars, hotels, intelligence agencies, and stores run by succubi, filled with seductive figures whose looks could overwhelm any male. Bai Xiao only gives them a glance. Such low-level succubi cannot tempt him. His focus now is on dealing with Lilith and obtaining resources. However, Bai Xiao frowns as he looks at the towering castle on the hill. From his perspective, the castle lacks even a magical barrier, which seems odd. Is Lilith so confident? Or is it a trap set for him? With his body tense, Bai Xiao's figure suddenly vanishes from the spot. He reappears inside the castle, which is large and luxuriously decorated, a akin to the ancient castles of human nobles, but with a slightly more sinister and eerie touch. Various portraits of Lilith and unknown demon heads adorn the walls, creating a chilling atmosphere. Ignoring these, Bai Xiao heads straight to the main hall of the castle, his keen senses scanning the entire structure. As expected, there is no sign of Lilith, only traces of her lingering presence and the guards protecting the castle. Turning to a nearby diligent demon guard, Bai Xiao's powerful mental force invades the guard's mind, reading its thoughts and memories. As anticipated, the guard's memories reveal Lilith's figure. The previous day, Lilith suddenly returned to the castle, seeming in high spirits. After returning, she stayed in her chamber for most of the day and has not emerged since. Bai Xiao is somewhat disappointed by his bad luck. Nevertheless, through the guard's memories, he finds the location of Lilith's treasury. The treasury is at the end of the second floor of the castle. It is easy to open, revealing a long corridor. Seeing the corridor and noticing the murals and mysterious runes on the walls, Bai Xiao immediately understands why there are no guards. The treasury is merely a trap. Anyone stepping into it will trigger powerful dark magic. The corridor's end, lined with various rare metals and treasures, is but an illusion. Opposite are all kinds of treasures, metals, and other items collected by Lilith. However, the actual place where these items are stored is not here. Instead, they're projected here as a realistic projection in this so-called treasure house. If someone truly harbors greed and tries to break in, it will inevitably trigger the traps left by Lilith. Black magic traps specially set by the Demon Lord, whose power is imaginable. All kinds of insidious curses could cause other demon lords to suffer losses. Bai Xiao could detect them mainly because he is also an expert in this area. Camartage is not only about white magic, but also has a lot of black magic. He had consulted with the Ancient One many times, and he is quite a big shot in this field. Noticing the traps, Bai Xiao stopped and did not proceed further. With Lilith not present, Bai Xiao did not leave immediately. Since he came to Hell, he planned to sneak into other demon lords' territories in advance to gather information. This is part of his action process. Before he slaughtered the gang, he would also sneak in to observe the geography, information, and retreat routes. This time, while diving the Hell dungeon, he did not intend to cause too much commotion. Whether it was Lilith or other demon lords, he had to kill them silently. Otherwise, causing a stir would attract the attention and alliance of other demon lords. Additionally, he had to consider the reaction from heaven. Losing so many demon lords in Hell would inevitably provoke a response from heaven. Occupying Hell, enslaving Hell, is the inevitable result. Furthermore, Bai Xiao would certainly become a thorn in the side for those angels in heaven. Heaven's domineering and aggressive nature would not allow such an unstable factor like Bai Xiao to continue existing. Forks Town. Bella was riding Bai Xiao's Ducati motorcycle back home from school today. After parking the motorcycle, Bella opened the door with the key. Charlie was not home yet, so Bella went to her room, recalling the basic magic knowledge Bai Xiao had imparted to her. The basic magic knowledge was imprinted in her mind, but it was akin to rote memorization. To understand its meaning, she needed to comprehend it herself. This was the third day since Bai Xiao left, and Bella was deeply engrossed in the magical knowledge. It was completely different from what she learned in school, more magical and idealistic. After more than an hour, it was completely dark outside. The noise of a car driving up outside woke Bella from her magical studies. She stood up from the bed and saw through the window that Charlie had arrived and parked the police car below. In the evening, while having dinner, Charlie looked a bit grim. Bella noticed and asked directly, "Dad, what happened? Is it related to the rumors?" The rumors Bella mentioned were what she heard at school today. Students were gossiping that there had been deaths in the town, not just one, and the deaths were very peculiar, with the victims' blood drained and looking gruesome and horrific. This caused some panic among the students. Bella didn't pay much attention at first, but seeing her father, the police chief's expression, it was clearly related to this matter. Rumors? Has the news reached your school? Charlie's hand holding the fork paused slightly. You know, the town isn't big. Many things can't be hidden. You shouldn't concern yourself with these things. You just need to go to school and do what you should, Bella. I'll drive you to and from school for the time being. Charlie didn't want to discuss these matters with Bella. Hearing Charlie's words, Bella understood and didn't ask further. The next day, as expected, Charlie drove her to school in the police car. Bella initially didn't like riding in the police car, but now she didn't mind. She no longer cared about how others looked at her. However, the bizarre deaths in the town did not stop, but increased after 2 days. The whole town was enveloped in panic, not just among the students, but everyone. The town's police station was also busy, with the frequent sound of police sirens. At school, the discussion and rumors about the sudden mysterious serial murders grew more intense. Bella continued her usual routine of attending classes, studying magic in her free time, contrasting sharply with the school's discussions and unease. However, despite this, someone still approached her. After class, Bella packed her books and left the classroom, heading to the cafeteria for lunch. While walking in the corridor, Edward, who hadn't spoken to her for a long time, approached her. "Bella, be careful lately. Some outsiders have come to town." After saying this, Edward left, leaving Bella slightly raising her eyebrows. Outsiders? What does Edward know? Moreover, after school, as soon as Bella was driven home by Charlie, her childhood friend Jacob also came to see her, similarly warning her that a group of outsiders had arrived in town and advising her not to go out unnecessarily except for school. Jacob also seemed dissatisfied with Bai Xiao, who suddenly left after she supposedly found a boyfriend. At this moment, Bella increasingly felt that both Edward and Jacob were hiding something. Additionally, whenever Edward or Jacob came to her, the necklace Bai Xiao gave her would always emit a magic that only she could feel. It seemed to be warning her. This phenomenon never occurred with Charlie or any other classmates. This made Bella suspicious of the Cullen family and Jacob. Since meeting Bai Xiao and realizing the world was not as peaceful as imagined, Bella knew that there might be unknown dangers hidden among humans. Could Edward and Jacob be such? Despite her suspicions, Bella didn't intend to pursue them. After all, whether it was Edward or Jacob, they showed kindness to Bella, which she could feel. She was more concerned about Charlie. Charlie might be the police chief, but what if the one behind these strange murders was not an ordinary person? This made Bella somewhat worried about Charlie's safety. While Bella was worried about her father's safety, Dr. Cullen's family, residing in their modern villa in the mountains, was also discussing the sudden arrival of outsiders in Forks. In the luxurious hall, Dr. Carlyle, wearing a white shirt with a furrowed brow, had a face full of concern. Fortunately, he was calm enough. Those guys barged into Forks town recklessly, disrupting its peace. "They are simply maniacs," said the blonde beauty, Rosalie, with her arms crossed and a look of discontent on her face. Forks town was the territory of the Cullen family. A group of outsiders intruding without notice and starting to hunt the town's residents was a provocative act, almost a declaration of war against the Cullen family. Moreover, the situation had escalated. Regardless of the outcome, they were likely to leave Forks town. Several years of peaceful time had been shattered, and anyone would be upset and angry about that. They're a group of vicious and unruly vampires forming a roaming band. They won't be recruited by those families. Unable to compete with powerful families, they roam different places, causing conflicts wherever they go. Carlyle said softly to his family members. "We can't let them continue this way. We must retaliate," Edward said coldly. "We love peace and do not fear war. But this time it's not just about us. The Wolf Tribe is also involved. I believe they won't stand idly by either. This time we must unite and absolutely not allow those guys to cause chaos in the town." "Howl!" At this moment, the sound of wolves howling came from outside the villa. The Cullen family members all turned to look through the large floor-to-ceiling windows and saw pairs of gleaming blue eyes in the forest deep in the night. It seems they couldn't sit still either. Carlyle smiled and led his family out of the villa to the open space outside. From a forest, several huge werewolves with a fierce aura emerged. The vampires and werewolves of Forks Town met once again. The leading large werewolf transformed into human form in an instant, revealing a muscular young man with black braided long hair. It was none other than Jacob. "You know why we are here, Dr. Carlyle," Jacob said in a low voice, with steam rising from his strong muscles due to his high body temperature. "Those guys brought disaster to the town." "Of course, we need to unite," Carlyle replied directly without any unnecessary words. "We won't allow anyone to destroy the hard-won peace. But first we must find them." Carlyle nodded. "Do you have any good ideas?" "My tribesmen have been tracking them, but they seem aware and keep avoiding us. We are too easily detected." Everyone immediately understood what Jacob meant. Due to their physique, the wolf tribe's body temperature remains around 40 degrees Celsius, which makes them too conspicuous to vampires. Even from a long distance, they can be detected. The wolf tribe's sense of smell is indeed excellent, but tracking also requires determining the enemy's position through scent. If they're too far apart, it is easy for the enemy to escape. "Leave it to us." Carlyle accepted the task without hesitation. Jacob was not surprised. "We will follow behind you. Once the fight starts, we will immediately join the battle." "Good. Then let's start tonight." In Hell, Bai Shao wandered around various lords' territories using concealment magic and disguise, waiting for the trap he set in Lilith's castle to be triggered. However, Lilith had not appeared, and Bai Shao was not in a hurry. He observed the other demon lords a bit. Compared to Lilith, these demon lords were much more obedient, preferring to stay in their territories. For them, time was meaningless, and they could stay in one place for hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years. If Bai Shao wanted to hunt them quietly, besides breaking into their territory, he would have to lure them out for a one-on-one fight. The best way was to draw them into another dimension. It is not difficult, but not particularly easy either. The simple way is to make some noise, disguise himself so that the other demon lords wouldn't realize it was him, anger the targeted demon lord, and lure them into a specially set trap to quickly take down the boss. Then erase the traces. Simple and brutal. Executing it, however, is somewhat challenging depending on whether the demon lord would take the bait and the limited time for soloing the boss. Bai Shao started planning and setting the second target. But just as he was about to start, his mind suddenly flashed with a series of images. In a vast universe, Bai Shao stood, facing a vast tide of dark energy, a massive head composed of various colors of dark energy, sinister and terrifying. Not only that, under the giant head, there was a small figure, an extremely enchanting woman. It was Lilith. Bai Shao immediately snapped back from this sudden vision, realizing that his passive skill to foresee the future had been triggered. Clearly, at some future point, he would face not only the demon lord Lilith alone, but also a more formidable opponent than Lilith. The breath of that giant head of dark energy was very familiar to him. Dormammu, the ruler of the dark dimension, whose life level far exceeded that of a Sky Father. Lilith, together with Dormammu, who had no connection, actually teamed up with the sole purpose of targeting him. "What a surprise you've brought me," Bai Shao murmured, trembling not out of fear but excitement, feeling the terrifying aura of Lilith and Dormammu directly. Ancient One once said that Bai Shao had the genes for combat ingrained in him. This was indeed the case. Upon sensing that Lilith and Dormammu seemed to be conspiring against him, Bai Shao's first reaction was not fear, but excitement. Excitement was instinctual, but he quickly calmed down. He began to ponder the scene of facing both Dormammu and Lilith together. Whether it was Dormammu or Lilith, both were beings high above. If it were an ordinary person triggering his foresight ability, he could see through their past and future from birth to death. But with Dormammu and Lilith, he could only see such a scene. Clearly, this was because Bai Shao was in crisis, and his instincts were triggered. He didn't understand the cause and effect, but knowing the outcome made the reason unimportant. The important thing was that Lilith and Dormammu were targeting him. Bai Shao's original plan to hunt other demon lords was disrupted. He needed to find Lilith first, and then kill her to break her alliance with Dormammu. Bai Shao never liked putting himself in dangerous situations. He always fought battles he was confident in winning. When he discovered a sign of danger, he had to nip it in the bud. He was not reckless like Thor. Caution was the foundation of his survival in this world. He also did not want his pursuit of supremacy to be cut short due to negligence and overconfidence. Tracking Lilith was not impossible, but it required a medium that possessed Lilith's own power. There was nothing like that in Lilith's castle. She was evidently very cautious and had taken everything away to prevent tracking. At this moment, Bai Xiao suddenly thought of something. An item he had previously encountered that had been in contact with Lilith's medium. It was Lilith's portrait. He had seen that portrait in a storage room in Forks Town in the hands of Asmodius. Later, he broke into Asmodius's territory, but the portrait disappeared, obviously taken by Lilith. It seems there is a way. Roar. On a gloomy night, with light rain falling, Forks Town was once again tormented by the rain. The town was particularly quiet at night, especially due to the series of strange deaths that had recently occurred, causing the residents to be cautious and stay indoors at night. This made the town even more desolate, but a few inhuman roars shattered the silence. In an old church on the outskirts of town, originally empty, the church was now filled with people. The red and blue stained glass windows were shattered, and 7 or 8 figures burst in, transforming into giant wolves as they landed and joining the fight with the people inside. The wolves quickly identified friend and foe and lunged at the group of invading vampires. This was a small vampire army, numbering at least 20, and the Cullen family was struggling against their attack. Fortunately, the wolves joined the battle, instantly changing the tide that had been against them. The individual combat strength of the wolves was displayed in full. Even when faced with 2 vampires, they held their ground, with the powerful Jacob even taking on 3. Although the Cullen family were also vampires, they had only ever consumed animal blood. Over the years, this left them weaker compared to the roaming vampires who drank human blood. Vampires had physical strength far superior to ordinary humans, with ghostly speed and immense power, causing severe damage to the church. Boom! A figure crashed through the crowd and slammed heavily into the church wall, embedding itself and causing the wall to cave in. This figure then pulled itself out of the wall as if nothing had happened and rushed back into the fray. At the center of the battle, Carlisle Cullen and his son Edward were fiercely fighting a blonde vampire and a black vampire with long braided hair, their faces twisted with ferocious expressions and bared sharp teeth. Ah, I didn't expect you to ally with the wolves, living peacefully in this town as vampires with a bunch of wolves. The blonde vampire caught Carlisle's punch, moving in close, his savage aura on full display. His gray-blue eyes stared intently at Carlisle, full of mockery. Get out of this town. You shouldn't be here, Carlisle said coldly. Let me take one person and we'll leave. The blonde vampire grinned. Ooh, Isabella's swan. Bella. Edward, fighting the black vampire, paused at these words, and the black vampire seized the opening, punching Edward in the chest. As Edward winced in pain, the black vampire grabbed him and slammed him to the ground. Boom! The ground cracked under the impact, and Edward's consciousness blurred. Luckily, Jacob roared and leaped over to help Edward, forcing the black vampire to step back indifferently. This move caused the vampire army to halt, driving back Alice, Rosalie, and the other wolves to retreat behind the blonde vampires. The Cullens and a few werewolves stood on one side, their faces grim as they watched the invaders. The strength of these vampires was astonishing. The creation of such a small vampire army must have involved the consumption of a lot of human blood. More importantly, both Carlisle and Jacob felt a strange power from the blonde and black vampires, not belonging to vampires. Why do you want Bella? Jacob, transforming back to human form, asked. We're just following orders. Someone hired us to capture that woman and get our reward. The blonde vampire, his red shirt open to reveal his abs, said nonchalantly. Jane, find that girl, and let's complete the mission. The black vampire interrupted his companion James. James wasn't angry when he heard this. Instead, he looked at the Cullen family and Jacob. So, Let me take the girl, or else I'll kill you all. After that, I'll slaughter this town and take her. Which one will you choose? James spoke coldly, with a smile on his face that sent chills down the spine. You want to take Bella? Then why have you killed so many people over the past few days? Dr. Cullen glanced at the furious Edward and Jacob. He didn't answer, but asked another question. We didn't know who the girl was at first. We've been looking for her these past few days. But my subordinates get hungry, so of course they need to drink blood to fill their stomachs. Enough with the nonsense. Now, get out of the way, let me capture the girl, and we'll leave the town. From then on, we won't bother you again. James seemed patient, answering the question before issuing the final ultimatum. But the response was Jacob's roar. Don't even think about taking anyone from this town, especially Bella. Howl! With a howl, Jacob transformed into a werewolf again. The other werewolves bared their fangs, bending down into attack positions, as did Edward and the other family members. However, Dr. Cullen noticed a faint, mocking smile on James' face and realized, You're stalling for time? Have you already sent others to capture Bella? Edward's expression changed. James clapped his hands in admiration. You're very smart. Otherwise, how could we have been entangled with you until now? But it's too late. I think the girl should have been captured by now. So it's over. The outcome is already decided. There's no reason to continue fighting. Roar! Jacob and Edward were utterly enraged. Just as Jacob was about to kill the vampires in front of him and then save Bella, everyone heard a loud roar in the distance. The surging energy waves made both vampires and werewolves present tremble. Everyone instinctively turned toward that direction, but all they could see was the church wall. That direction is where Bella is. Jacob immediately realized where the sound was coming from. Bella originally had another ordinary day. In the days without Bai Shao, she spent most of her time immersing herself in a vast ocean of magical knowledge, trying to understand these spells. To be honest, anyone would become obsessed with learning magic. Although she had little time to study these days, she had already learned some basic spells. Although her body had no energy, the necklace contained a vast amount of magic stored by Bai Shao. Even though she was using an external object, Bella successfully cast a few basic spells. For example, Fireball, Shield, and Ice Spike. As for their power, it's hard to describe. The reason is simple. Bella dared not unleash their full potential. The magic she used was within a controllable range. If she released a large amount of magic, even a basic fireball could destroy a street or even a whole town. There is a detailed description in the basic magic knowledge, so Bella didn't dare to act recklessly. After all, this small town had more than 3,000 people, and she didn't want to cause their deaths due to her rash actions. Tonight, after dinner, Bella returned to her room to continue studying basic magic. Unexpectedly, a loud roar was heard, and several people broke into her house. These people headed straight for Bella's room on the second floor. As for Charlie, due to the ongoing strange cases in the town, he was still at the police station dispatching personnel to investigate. Therefore, Bella was alone at home. Hearing the commotion downstairs, Bella immediately became alert. She heard footsteps on the stairs, indicating that there were many people. They were coming aggressively, clearly not friendly. Bella had just gotten up from the bed when those people quickly broke into her room. A hand smashed through the door, grabbed the handle inside, turned it, and opened the door. Bella saw a blonde woman with 3 white men and a black man, all looking at her menacingly. Who are you? Get out of my house. Bella instinctively felt fear, but then the magic from the necklace cleared her mind, and the necklace began to glow with a golden light. Seeing Bella, the blonde woman wanted to speak, but then they noticed the golden light from Bella's necklace. The energy emanating from it made them feel an inexplicable danger. Sensing the danger, the men lunged at Bella without hesitation, while the blonde woman turned and ran. The dazzling golden light suddenly burst forth, making Bella like a scorching sun. The blinding light turned the entire room into daylight. Under the terrifying and intense golden light, the people who lunged at Bella screamed as they melted and disintegrated, turning into ashes in an instant. The house also suffered, starting to collapse. The loud roar echoed everywhere, and the wooden house completely collapsed into ruins. Bella, glowing with golden light, quietly floated at the height of the second floor, looking down at the collapsed ruins with a bit of helplessness on her delicate face. She knew all this was caused by the necklace Bai Xiao had given her. As Bai Xiao said, the necklace would protect her. However, its power was too great, even destroying the house. "I hope Charlie won't be angry," Bella murmured, then landed gently on the ground in front of the house. She took out a key from her pocket, intending to ride the Ducati motorcycle in front of the house to the police station to find her father, Charlie. Just as she started the engine, there was movement again from the collapsed ruins. Bella turned to see a figure breaking through the wooden boards and debris, looking directly at her. It was the blonde woman who had escaped earlier. "What did you just do?" The blonde woman now looked somewhat afraid. Bella rolled her eyes, ready to leave, but then she heard an old voice in her ear. "It seems I arrived just in time." Bella and the blonde woman looked up and saw several figures approaching under the cover of night. As they came closer, illuminated by a nearby street lamp, their appearances became clear. Leading them was an old man in a deep brown helmet, armor, and cloak, with a face full of wrinkles exuding authority. To his left stood a woman with blue-scaled skin, graceful and striking, while to his right were two men, one burly and muscular, and the other similarly wearing a metal helmet that covered his face except for his eyes. This second man was over 2 meters tall, with muscles as developed as a bull's, exuding an even more intimidating aura than his companion. Such a group would likely terrify any ordinary person who saw them. The large man walked up to Bella and then to Bai Xiao's RV, seemingly annoyed by it blocking his path. Just as Bella was about to speak up to stop him, he extended his hand and pushed the RV aside with one shove. With a loud bang, the RV was pushed into the ruins of a house, collapsing with a great noise. Seeing the state of the RV, a surge of anger rose within Bella. "Beautiful lady," the old man began politely, but his words were cut off by the ensuing horrifying scene. Bella swiftly formed complex hand seals before her and raised her right hand. Boom! A scorching fireball with a diameter of 7 or 8 meters suddenly appeared, like a small sun, its brightness dispelling the surrounding darkness. The intense heat distorted the air, evaporating the light rain into steam that spread out. A beautiful girl holding such a large fireball created an impressive visual impact. Even the old man, the blue-skinned woman, and the strong man beside them couldn't help but widen their eyes in shock. The blonde woman, standing in the ruins and shocked by the appearance of these strangers, trembled and had only one thought: run. It was terrifying. James had sent her to capture someone like this. She believed that the energy contained in that fireball could pulverize her upon impact. Wow, what incredible power. You are one of us, a mutant. Child, you should know me. The old man, startled at first, quickly showed a delighted expression. Roar. The man who had pushed the RV aside roared like a beast. Despite his limited intelligence, he sensed that this little girl was a threat aimed at him and angrily prepared to charge and tear her apart. But the old man raised his hand to stop him. Juggernaut, this girl is one of us. I'm not a mutant, and you shouldn't have pushed his RV, Bella said, holding the enormous fireball. Her hair, tousled by the heat waves, made her look like a goddess of fire. Him? John Shaw. The old man's eyes lit up. That is the second piece of good news today. Child, if possible, could you tell me where Mr. Shaw is? What do you want with Shaw? An old friend asked me to invite him over. You don't look like you're inviting him. Maybe he doesn't want to come, so I might need to use some stronger persuasion, the old man said matter-of-factly. This completely marked the group as enemies in Bella's eyes. Her delicate face turned cold. So you are Shaw's enemies. The old man tried patiently to explain further, but Bella had had enough of the day's troubles. Hearing the old man's forceful tone, she unhesitatingly hurled the fireball at the group. Boom! The fireball shot towards the old man like a meteor. Before he could speak, the giant known as Juggernaut had already braced himself at the front, roaring and extending his hands to block the massive fireball. The old man remained motionless, as the magnetic field around him and his companions suddenly shifted, creating a field that completely isolated them from the material and energy around. A terrifying explosion erupted, with raging flames and heat waves blasting in all directions. The ground around them instantly burned into a large crater, and the earth trembled. The fire spread, melting the streetlights and burning everything around. Fortunately, there were no houses nearby, so the explosion didn't harm any innocent bystanders. This was precisely why Bella had thrown the fireball without hesitation. The fire continued to spread, igniting the surrounding vegetation and fallen trees, which even the light rain from the sky couldn't extinguish. The area around the house turned into a fiery zone, the dim firelight illuminating everything. Bella stood her ground, with a shield formed from a complex golden magical sigil in front of her, blocking the massive impact from the explosion and protecting the ground beneath her feet. The girl glanced around. The explosion had ravaged the area, thoroughly destroying it. She briefly regretted her actions, but this feeling quickly dissipated. She knew that when facing enemies, she had to defeat them or protect herself by any means necessary. This was something Bai Xiao had once told her. Everyone has compassion, but when it comes to oneself, one must act decisively. Bella looked ahead. In the firelight, the huge figure was barely visible. Soon, a roar dispersed the surrounding flames, revealing the unharmed juggernaut standing in place. Behind him stood the similarly unscathed old man, the blue-skinned woman, and the strong man. What a powerful ability and such decisiveness. I hope you can join the Brotherhood. Our kind needs you. The energy field had isolated the heat. The old man walked up to Juggernaut, patted him on the shoulder, and looked at Bella. My name is Eric, but you can call me Magneto. I think you should have heard this name. Child, you are a gift from heaven to our kind. I said, I'm not a mutant. Bella knew who Magneto was. In America, the name Magneto was directly associated with terrorism for the general public. She just didn't expect him to mistake her for a mutant. She had never discriminated against mutants. In fact, because of Bai Xiao, she had even resented not being one herself. The truth is the truth, and, at this moment, she didn't want to lie. Magneto listened to Bella without anger or surprise. He had encountered many children like her, who tried to hide their abilities after awakening, not wanting their identities exposed, not wanting to be looked at with disgust and hatred by those around them, including family and friends. No one wants to be isolated. No one wants their life to change. Magneto always knew that it wasn't the fault of his fellow mutants, but the fault of the world and the ignorant people within it. Magneto was always very patient, especially with a compatriot who had great potential. Bella, in his view, was already a beta-level mutant. Look at the huge fireball with a diameter of 7 or 8 meters. Even though the Juggernaut bore most of the explosion's power head-on, it still managed to destroy the surroundings. He also noticed that after Bella used her power, she didn't even catch her breath, which meant she hadn't used all her strength. She had more potential to develop. In the future, she could reach the alpha level, on par with him and Charles. As the two talked, howls of wolves and the sound of something breaking through the air echoed in the distance. Suddenly, figures appeared around the flames, surrounding Magneto and Bella. Led by Jacob, the werewolves and the Cullen family encircled Bella, while James and a group of vampires surrounded everyone, including Magneto. The atmosphere immediately became tense and murderous. The flames from the burning vegetation crackled, and Juggernaut, displeased by the small figures surrounding him, let out a noticeable breath, and his chest started to heave rapidly, exuding a ferocious aura that swept in all directions. This made the vampires with James, the Cullen family, and Jacob's werewolves feel like they were being watched by a terrifying beast. Haha, it's quite lively tonight, Magneto remarked, unfazed by the sudden and complicated situation. He glanced around. Jacob transformed into a human and stood to Bella's left, while Edward stood to her right. Jacob, seeing Bella's calm demeanor, was somewhat surprised but still asked, "Are you all right, Bella?" Edward, who had been first to act, gave Jacob a complex look but said nothing, only gazing at Bella with his clear eyes. "Of course, I was just disturbed from my studies." "Jacob, what's going on now?" Bella responded to Jacob, since he was her childhood friend, and she could sense his concern for her. She only saw Jacob as a friend and had no other thoughts. That group of outsiders is a band of nomadic vampires. Their target is you, and there seems to be someone behind them. Although I don't know why. I will protect you. Thank you. Bella looked at James, who was eyeing her maliciously, and said calmly, "Victoria?" "Sorry, James. That girl is strange, possibly a mutant. She killed our people. The old man is Magneto, and the others are his subordinates, apparently also here for that girl." "How interesting. It seems we are at a stalemate here." James's expression turned serious. His gaze swept over the calm old man. Although he was a vampire, he had naturally heard of the famous Magneto, one of the most powerful mutants in the world. To put it bluntly, vampires could show off in front of ordinary people and some weaker mutants. However, facing a mutant of Magneto's caliber, if he wanted to kill them, it would probably take just a wave of his hand. At this moment, James wanted to retreat, but thinking of the deal with that person and the reward he offered, James felt reluctant. Moreover, he wasn't sure if he could bear the other party's revenge. James was conflicted. "All right, the farce can end now. Child, no matter what, you must come with me today. I will not allow a potential compatriot to live among werewolves, vampires, and humans in a small town," Magneto said, ignoring James, the Cullen family, and Jacob's group, his authoritative gaze fixed on Bella. His aged voice left no room for doubt. Whether it was because of the deal with Emma or Bella herself, he decided to take Bella away first and then work on persuading her. After all, he believed in his charisma and eloquence. Persuading an 18-year-old girl would be easy. Don't even think about it. Jacob was furious. With a howl, he transformed into a giant werewolf, stepped forward, and bared his fangs. Pups like you should be kept on a leash, staying at home obediently as guard dogs. Magneto stretched out his hand, and the next moment, the ground under Jacob's feet cracked open. Steel bars transformed into chains and precisely locked Jacob and several other werewolves by the neck, limbs, and even their mouths. The terrifying restraining power immediately immobilized Jacob and the werewolves, no matter how angry or struggling they were, unable to break free from the chains. Although the chains were transformed from steel bars, they were mixed with Magneto's use of magnetic fields, making it impossible for the werewolves to move. This was the terrifying suppression of one of the strongest mutants, Magneto. Vampires and werewolves were like bats and dogs to him. He could kill them all in minutes. "Let go of my friend." Jacob's restraint angered Bella. After all, Jacob had confronted the outsider vampires and Magneto to protect her. Now that Magneto had restrained Jacob, Bella couldn't just stand by. Without hesitation, Bella extended her hands, quickly drawing intricate runes under everyone's gaze. The next moment, there was a boom in the sky. A thick lightning bolt suddenly struck down at Magneto, but it disappeared completely a few meters above him, as if swallowed by an invisible force field. Everyone was stunned. James and his nomadic group were shocked. Was the target they were supposed to capture this dangerous? The Cullen family, including Edward, looked at Bella with surprise. They had always thought she was just an ordinary, albeit pretty girl. They hadn't expected her to have such abilities. If they were struck by that lightning, even with their vampire resilience, they would either die or be seriously injured. Jacob was even more surprised. His crush also had secrets. "You've truly surprised me, young lady. You're more remarkable than I imagined," Magneto said with delight. Bella's mutant abilities seemed to be multiple. Fire, lightning, all highly destructive. Magneto didn't waste more words. He spread his hands, and in an instant, the surrounding magnetic field changed. The force field shifted, altering the structure of the magnetic field. The air seemed to solidify and become heavy. Except for Mystique, Sabretooth, and Juggernaut, everyone else was suppressed to the ground. James and the Cullen family were forced to lie on the ground, their faces filled with pain. Only Bella, though suppressed, felt less pressure, merely unable to move, but not as embarrassed. Magneto gave Sabretooth a glance. Understanding, Sabretooth stepped forward, ready to forcibly take Bella away. As he approached Bella, step by step, under the unwilling and angry gazes of Edward and Jacob, Bella furrowed her delicate brows, feeling a bit panicked. However, the necklace around her neck suddenly emitted a dazzling golden light. A surge of magical power from the necklace poured into Bella's body, and a majestic aura erupted. Centered around her, a wave of golden energy swept in all directions. Sabretooth was caught off guard and was thrown away by the golden energy wave. The Cullen family lying on the ground was also affected. Following in Sabretooth's footsteps, only the restrained Jacob and his werewolf companions were spared. When the golden energy wave reached Magneto, it was blocked by his ever-present force field, dissipating. Magneto's old face showed some changes. As one of the strongest mutants capable of controlling magnetism, Magneto could sense the nature of the energy. He could tell that the power suddenly unleashed by Bella did not come from herself, but from a necklace around her neck. What was this item that could emit such a powerful force? This was definitely not something an ordinary person could possess. Many questions flashed through Magneto's mind. He had lived for many years and had never seen such a vast amount of energy compressed into a small necklace, seemingly controllable by the girl and automatically activated in danger. This function was incredibly advanced. Waves of turbulent air swept in all directions like storm. Bella now burned with golden flames, her hair standing on end, her eyes glowing with gold, majestic and beautiful like a divine female deity. A memory flashed in Bella's mind, and she instinctively began to control it. In the next moment, Magneto's face changed drastically, and everyone present was also shocked. Bella's figure began to float, rising into the air. Behind her, numerous golden vortexes, like mirrors, appeared, forming a splendid golden wall. From these golden vortexes, sacred and gorgeous weapons slowly emerged. Instantly, a vast and holy aura began to spread across Forks. Even the ground started to tremble slightly, as if a natural disaster was imminent. What was unbelievable to everyone was the intense threat of death. James, the Cullen family, Jacob, and others felt that when those weapons were fully released from the golden vortexes, destruction and disaster would ensue, leaving no survivors. So the vision I saw wasn't of that man, but Bella. In the distance, Alice, covered in dust, struggled to lift her head and look at Bella, who was floating in the sky like an emotionless goddess, and murmured in a shocked tone. She had always thought the protagonist of this scene was the man named John Shaw. But now, she realized it was Bella. This is really... Dr. Carlyle smiled bitterly, holding his wife's hand, turning to look at her with deep affection. Facing death, he was calm, only reluctant to part with his beloved wife. His wife, Esme, also looked back lovingly. Jacob, suppressed from the start by Magneto, looked up at the sky, his giant wolf head reflecting the figure standing under the splendid golden wall. He felt no fear, only love. If he were to die at the hands of the girl he loved, he would be willing. James and his group were filled with regret and fear. He deeply regretted being hired and deceived to come to Forks to capture Bella. He hadn't expected the girl to be so terrifying. No wonder that gloomy guy didn't come himself. Damn it, he used us as cannon fodder. Mystique and the recovering Sabretooth looked at Magneto. Although they were his trusted aides, they had no resistance against such an overwhelming force and could only rely on Magneto. Magneto also looked up, silent, as the world trembled. An invisible energy quietly changed. Magneto himself did not expect to encounter a fellow mutant with such potential. As per the usual scenario, if someone was unwilling to come along, he would forcibly take them, brainwash them, and be done with it. However, he didn't anticipate that Bella, this young girl, would completely break the pattern and immediately opt for a grand move. This grand move made even Magneto shudder. He had always been confident in his abilities, but now, faced with such a terrifying scene, he wasn't sure if he could withstand it. Magneto wondered what secret the girl held. Mutant abilities were diverse, encompassing space and even time, but he had never seen such a power. If the girl was indeed a mutant, she would not be just an alpha, but an omega, the highest level of mutants. However, Magneto could not confirm if this power belonged to the girl herself. It seemed more like she was borrowing someone else's power. If so, who could that person be? A name immediately flashed in Magneto's mind. John Shaw, the person Emma made a deal with to take away. Emma's words echoed in his ears. He might have other means. Eric, don't underestimate him. This confirmed that the man named John Shaw was not simple, which explained why Emma was willing to pay a precious price to make a deal with him instead of seeking him out herself. That's just like you, Emma. Magneto raised his head, releasing his power to the maximum. The invisible magnetic field disrupted the surrounding space, like a collapsing black hole, continuously absorbing the released energy. Magneto now considered whether to endure this move or to escape directly. He had little confidence in withstanding it, as the invisible threat felt like a tide ready to drown him. Magneto never doubted his premonitions. He knew that enduring this would be very risky. With the help of a tank like Juggernaut, the probability might be higher, but he was confident in escaping. Golden halos reflected in his eyes, growing more intense. Time did not allow Magneto to continue pondering. What seemed like a long time of thinking was actually very short. He used magnetism to enhance his body, surpassing human limits, and reduced his reaction time to 1/15 of a normal human. As Magneto frowned, making a significant decision in his heart, the sky, time, and space seemed to be frozen by a vast, invisible divine power at that moment. Everything stopped instantly. The wind, the flickering flames on the ground, the climbing vampires, Mystique and Sabretooth hiding beside Magneto, all were frozen in place. Only Magneto and Juggernaut, though temporarily immobilized, still had functioning minds. Juggernaut, not the brightest, released his terrifying power in anger, trying to break free from the invisible divine power. His immense strength cracked the ground beneath his feet, his bulging muscles looking menacing. Magneto's eyes flickered, his heart tumultuous, and he unhesitatingly released all his power to manipulate magnetism, altering the surrounding force field to isolate the suppressive force and break free. It worked, but the progress was very slow. Magneto felt like he was fighting an impossible god. Like an ordinary person facing a storm, all he felt was despair. Who could it be? Why did they have such power? Sweat beaded on Magneto's forehead, disbelief filling his heart. Since becoming Magneto, he had always believed he was one of the strongest in the world, with only Charles and the White Queen being his equals. But both Charles and Emma had their weaknesses. If he were ruthless, Magneto believed he could kill Charles and the White Queen. In a way, Magneto saw himself as the strongest mutant, a god. But now, his pride and confidence were shattered. Is everyone here to find me? A calm voice echoed in everyone's ears, yet it felt as thunderous as it was tranquil, causing the frozen scene to resume. A figure embraced Bella's slender waist, looking down at everyone like a god gazing at mortals. John Shaw. When he appeared, his name instantly rang in everyone's mind. However, when Edward and Jacob saw Bella happily nestling in by Zhao's arms, their expressions were complicated. They were both losers. Even if they wanted to protect her silently, they couldn't. Behind them, Bai Xiao took control of the treasure's power without activating it. His gaze swept over James and the vampire army, who were trembling in fear, their faces filled with terror. A single cold glance almost made their hearts burst. Last time you survived, because of him, hiding like a rat in a ditch, without the courage to face me? Caecilius, this is not the you I knew. Bai Xiao addressed James, leaving everyone, including Magneto, puzzled. But unexpectedly, James seemed to change, clapping his hands and standing up, looking up at Bai Xiao. His face turned sinister. "Is this your trap?" The hoarse voice was identical to the former Caecilius. It was evident that James was being controlled by Caecilius or had been turned into a puppet by his dark energy. Strange. I can't track your location. It seems Dormammu has been generous, giving you many good things." Bai Xiao's pupils, rendered golden, stared at James, trying to track Caecilius' true presence, but failed. The opponent had clearly used dark magic to conceal himself, preventing tracking. Bai Xiao was not surprised, as although he had combat power comparable to the top-tier Sky Father level and was a master of magic, the multiverse had many entities stronger than him, especially Dormammu, a dark lord at the single-body level. Creating a spell to hide from him was not difficult. "The Great Master has noticed you, Shaw. I will witness your death. Never relax, for the curse will always accompany you. Those around you will die because of your negligence, and you will regret everything you have done." James spoke calmly, but his words were chilling. Others frowned, hearing the exchange revealing unimaginable information. A mysterious person controlling James, who was Caecilius. Who was the great master he spoke of? Why did they bear such enmity towards John Shaw, seemingly in an unending feud? Edward, the Cullen family, and Jacob looked at Bai Xiao, the source of everything. What was his identity? Facing their varied gazes, Bai Xiao did not say more or even make a move. They saw James and the vampire army around Victoria suddenly stiffen and then burned into ashes by an invisible force. Such a nonchalant erasure of over 20 vampire lives sent a chill down everyone's spine. Especially the Cullen family and the wolves Jacob brought. They shrank, hoping not to be noticed, not wanting James' fate. Fortunately, Bai Xiao shifted his gaze to Magneto and the others, stopping momentarily on Juggernaut before finally focusing on Magneto. "Emma." He uttered Emma's name, to which Magneto was unsurprised and nodded. "She said this was her game agreement with you." "That was a game I almost forgot. I didn't expect to interact with her again." Back then, Bai Xiao did not take the game seriously. Emma was never his target. She hid from him, and he was too lazy to find her, almost forgetting the blonde beauty. But now, she sent Magneto to him. Reaching his current level, few things could anger Bai Xiao. To be honest, today's events were just a farce in his eyes, coincidentally arranged together. Though these people targeted Bella, he knew that on Earth, no one could harm Bella without bypassing him. Anyone who came would die, including Magneto. If he hadn't controlled the treasure's activation, everyone except Juggernaut would have perished. "You shouldn't have joined this game. Goodbye, Magneto." Bai Xiao snapped his fingers, the faint sound like delicate glass shattering. The treasure behind him activated, golden light blooming brilliantly, countless rays falling like meteors, dazzling and beautiful, but also a symbol of death. Magneto's pupils contracted, unleashing all his power, altering the surrounding magnetic field. In the face of death, he opened a wormhole, intending to escape with Mystique, Sabretooth, and Juggernaut. But as soon as the wormhole opened, the beams fell. No matter how fast his power, it couldn't outpace light. Boom, boom, boom. In the desperate gazes of Magneto, Mystique, and Sabretooth, the terrifying energy exploded on the surface, the devastating force ravaging everywhere, annihilating all life. The town shook wildly, the ground cracked, and the brilliant light turned night into day. In an instant, the entire town of Forks was utterly destroyed. The affected Cullen family and Jacob's wolf pack were also in despair. No one expected the seemingly cheerful Asian boy to become a grim reaper, mercilessly destroying everything, including the town of over 3,000 people, with many friends, and Bella's father, Charlie. Charlie? Thinking of Bella's father, Esme, a beautiful mature woman, suddenly snapped out of her shock and fear. Right, that boy loved Bella. How could he cold-bloodedly kill the entire town, including Bella's father? Not just Esme. Initially heartbroken, thinking his father and friends were dead, Jacob also realized something was wrong. What is going on? Everyone stood dumbfounded, watching the golden torrent sweep the town, turning it to scorched earth, full of questions. Looking up at the sky, Bella, held by Bai Xiao, was shocked. She was not stunned by Bai Xiao's ruthlessness, but by his world-destroying power. Bella did not mourn because, knowing basic magic, she remembered an advanced magic above basic spells called mirror dimension magic. Bella also believed that Bai Xiao would not be the type to harm innocent people. Even though she had casually killed so many as an 18-year-old girl, she indeed felt discomfort. But it was just that, discomfort. As for the vampires like James who were killed, she didn't feel much. After all, they weren't even human and were enemies, so why let them live? Forks Town had turned completely into scorched earth, with pools of lava bubbling everywhere. The sight after the surface was cleansed was shocking. Experiencing a great destruction firsthand always stirs emotions in one's heart. Bai Xiao, holding the girl's slender waist, slowly floated down, landing on the ground. His gaze swept towards the Cullen family and the group of werewolves, including Jacob, who were freed from the magnetic fields due to Magneto's death. There's no need to be so tense. He noticed both sides were a bit nervous, which was understandable. After all, he had just displayed world-destroying power. It would be strange if they weren't nervous. Moreover, the sheer suppression of life levels is an instinctive reaction. Ordinary people might be fine, but extraordinary beings like vampires and werewolves, with their extremely keen senses, would be even more sensitive to this natural suppression. I am a hunter, but I don't hunt everyone. If you are willing to coexist peacefully with ordinary people, you are not on my hunting list. Although he knew both Edward and Jacob admired Bella, their feelings were mere crushes. After being rejected by Bella, one kept a respectful distance, and the other treated her as a friend. Both maintained boundaries, which was sufficient. After all, he couldn't kill someone just because they had a crush on Bella. That would be overly possessive and perverse. There were many students at school who had a crush on Bella. Should they all be killed? Bai Xiao wasn't some indiscriminate killer. Nice to meet you, Mr. John. Hearing Bai Xiao's words, the Cullen family breathed a sigh of relief. Although the suppression of life levels made them tense, Dr. Carlyle, as the head of the family, still stepped forward. Dr. Carlyle, roar! At this introductory moment, a towering figure emerged from the scorched earth not far away, standing up like a giant and roaring angrily at Bai Xiao. It was the Juggernaut. At this moment, the Juggernaut's original clothing was destroyed, leaving him completely naked, with an enormous angry face exposed. Despite being bombarded by the Gate of Babylon, his body showed no damage. Or rather, his extraordinary physical defense and personal field allowed him to heal at superhuman speeds while enduring the onslaught, constantly hovering on the edge of destruction. It seemed like luck, but it was actually Bai Xiao's intention. He didn't think much of the Juggernaut, but the master of the Crimson Cosmos behind him, Sidorak, was a huge trouble he didn't want to attract by killing the Juggernaut. Sidorak, the master of the Crimson Cosmos, was an extremely powerful and ancient magical entity, both god and demon, worshipped by humans in ancient times until he was banished to the Crimson Cosmos. The origin of the Juggernaut was simple. Originally an ordinary mutant, the Juggernaut obtained a ruby deliberately placed on Earth by Sidorak, which twisted his mind and turned him into the Juggernaut. In ancient times, 8 demonic gods gathered together: Balthak, Farala, Icon, Kraken, Ragador, Voltur, Watum, and Sidorak. Disputes arose as they sought to prove who was the strongest. Each created a magical artifact embodying their power, and the first human to touch it would become their champion. Sidorak created the Crimson Ruby, and the Juggernaut was his champion. In reality, the Juggernaut was a toy created by Sidorak. Killing the Juggernaut wouldn't destroy the ruby. It would simply await its next owner. Bai Xiao didn't want to provoke a powerful demonic god during his growth period. Provoking such a being without the necessary strength was foolish. If he had to provoke someone, it would be when he had the strength he once had, considering the opponent as a hunt. The Crimson Dungeon far exceeded his current level. he couldn't even open it. So having a backer is good. Magneto had no backer and was killed by Shao without hesitation. Magneto's life essence wasn't much, not as much as some high-level demons, which didn't match his power level. Clearly, life essence acquisition depends purely on the life level. Although Magneto's abilities were strong, his life level wasn't high enough to provide much. The Juggernaut offered more than Magneto. Whether the Crimson Ruby counted as life was uncertain, but Shao doubted it. After all, it was merely an object created by Cyttorak's crimson magic. If the Crimson Ruby counted, Shao might consider acquiring the Space Stone from S.H.I.E.L.D. and destroying it for experience, possibly even more than a Lord-level demon. Shao spared the Juggernaut, but the Juggernaut didn't know that. Even if he did, his childlike mind wouldn't feel grateful. At this moment, the Juggernaut was solely focused on anger. Anger is the Hulk's source of power, but the Juggernaut's rage was also terrifying. The Crimson Ruby's magic granted him nearly limitless strength and durability, making him one of the few capable of directly confronting the Hulk. Additionally, when the Juggernaut activated his momentum, nothing could physically stop him. In the future, he could even break through dimensional barriers with his momentum. This showed how terrifying his momentum was. However, he had a well-known weakness. He was virtually defenseless against powerful telepaths. For this reason, the Juggernaut had a special helmet to protect his mind from telepathic attacks. However, this helmet was shattered by the Gate of Babylon, leaving a naked Juggernaut vulnerable to telepaths, like a child. With a casual glance from Shao, the Juggernaut immediately calmed down. The Juggernaut's mental world was chaotic and twisted due to the constant release of Cyttorak's magic from the Crimson Ruby at its center, distorting his mind. This magic twisted his mind, but also provided some resistance against most mental powers. Yet, if the mental power exceeded this limit, it could still control the Juggernaut. Shao was one such individual. While using mental power to subdue the Juggernaut, Shao pondered. This physically strong but mentally weak giant seemed like a good meat shield, and since the Juggernaut was still growing, the Crimson Ruby's power continuously transforming him, he wasn't yet at his peak. Currently, it was 2004, far from the time when the Juggernaut could battle the Worldbreaker Hulk. Though weaker now, he was still formidable, with few on Earth able to confront him. If necessary, he could be given to Bella as a bodyguard. With this giant, Bella's safety would be significantly enhanced. Thinking this, Shao walked to the Juggernaut, who was now over 2.8 meters tall, requiring Shao to look up. He patted the giant's shoulder, then snapped his fingers. A golden light flashed, and a tight combat suit automatically fitted onto the Juggernaut. "Big guy, I want to talk." Shao spoke while using mental power to soothe the Juggernaut's childlike mind, calming him. The Juggernaut lowered his head to meet Xiao's eyes, saying in a muffled voice, "You hit me very hard just now. Sorry, I was angry. Were you close with Magneto?" "No. He hired me, paid me, asked me to help him. He's very strong. I couldn't beat him." The Juggernaut replied honestly. Shao nodded. "Can you beat me?" Without hesitation, the Juggernaut said, "No. Magneto is dead. I could pay you too. Would you help me? But you have to pay me." The Juggernaut hesitated, but agreed. "I can pay you a lot." This immediately struck a chord with the Juggernaut, making him happy and excited. "How much?" "A big box of money." "Okay. As long as you pay me, I'll do anything." The Juggernaut eagerly patted his chest. "Then follow me for now, and help protect Bella." The Juggernaut nodded his big head. Shao patted the Juggernaut's shoulder again, then returned to Bella. Under Edward and Jacob's bitter gazes, he gently kissed the girl and whispered in her ear, "I have two enemies plotting against me. I need to find and defeat them. So, go Shaw. You know I'll always wait for you." Shao smiled, kissed her forehead again, and with a snap, the world shifted. The Scorched Forks town reappeared. It was still Charlie's house, though now in ruins, with roads destroyed by Bella's fireball. Shao had no time magic to reverse time and restore the house. However, a portal emitting sparks appeared, startling everyone, as Ancient One, wearing a yellow robe, stepped out lightly. She glanced around, paused at the Juggernaut, then looked at Bai Xiao and Bella, especially the former, with some helplessness. Magneto was significant in this world, though not as much as Tony Stark, but still important in history. Yet Bai Xiao had killed him. His decisive nature was both endearing and frustrating to her. Master Ancient One. Bai Xiao signaled her to look around. The Ancient One, both amused and exasperated, still extended her hand. The eye of Agamotto on her chest emitted a green glow, and a green magic circle appeared in her palm. Immediately, time seemed to reverse, controlled by the Ancient One. Boom! Like a divine miracle, the destroyed houses, streets, and vehicles began to reverse, from ashes to fragments, back to whole. The two-story houses, RVs, Ducati motorcycles, red pickup, streets, and vegetation were all restored to their original state. "Wow!" exclaimed the lively Alice. The others were equally shocked. Today's events were more fantastical than their entire lives. As vampires and werewolves, they were already extraordinary, but today's events were beyond their imagination, creating a separate mirror world, destroying Forkstown in one blow, and now a bald woman controlling time to reverse it. Even a not-so-bright Juggernaut showed a wary expression toward Ancient One. This thin and bald woman looked formidable, possibly even unbeatable. After manipulating time to restore the destroyed buildings and streets, Ancient One's figure disappeared again. Of course, Bai Xiao knew where Ancient One had gone. After instructing Bella on some matters, his figure also suddenly vanished. With their departure, the scene fell into silence. Bella was the first to speak. She looked at Jacob and said, "Jacob, you should take Juggernaut away later. I think Charlie must have heard the commotion here and is on his way." Juggernaut's large size would alert Charlie. "Well, I don't mind, but he—" Jacob pointed at Juggernaut. Juggernaut's massive build and ferocious aura made even a pure-blood werewolf like Jacob nervous. If they brought him home and he went berserk, Jacob wasn't sure they could restrain him. Bella's delicate face showed a calm smile as she walked up to Juggernaut and looked up at this dumb brute. "Juggernaut, go home with Jacob later and rest for a day, okay?" "I don't need rest. I can go without food or sleep and protect you." Juggernaut quickly pounded his chest with his big hand, making a thumping sound. He was reluctant to leave Bella, mainly because he hadn't received his payment yet. And Juggernaut was somewhat afraid of the man who nearly killed him. He had to obey to avoid being beaten. Bella, instructed by Bai Xiao, naturally knew what to do. "Shaw told you to listen to me. Will you?" "I will." "Then I'm telling you to leave with Jacob." Juggernaut was a bit confused. He scratched the back of his head, and his silly demeanor made everyone laugh. If it weren't for his overwhelmingly powerful combat abilities that could withstand attacks capable of destroying Forkstown, he would actually be quite amusing. After thinking for a while, Juggernaut finally understood. Though he was asked to protect this tiny woman, the terrifying man wanted him to obey her, so he nodded. "I'll leave with him, but don't forget my payment." The big Juggernaut trudged over to Jacob and muttered a reminder to Bella, still mindful of his reward. Bella held back her laughter and nodded. "Of course, you'll get it when you return." "All right, I'll go with you." Juggernaut's deep voice responded. Seeing his size and aura up close made Jacob and the werewolf men behind him shudder. They quickly nodded in agreement. "Then we'll be going, Bella." "Thank you very much today, Jacob. We will always be the best of friends," Bella said softly. "Best friends." Jacob felt a bit bitter inside, but today's events made him realize how outstanding and mysterious Bella's lover was, providing her with a greater sense of security than he ever could. So, he took a deep breath and buried his feelings, responding with a smile. "Yes, we're the best of friends." After speaking, he prepared to leave with Juggernaut. Before they left, Bella gave a special reminder. "Juggernaut, go home with Jacob and rest. Don't hurt them. They're friends of Shaw and me." "I won't hurt friends." Juggernaut replied grumpily, referring not to his friends but to Bai Xiao's. He wasn't foolish enough to bully Bai Xiao's friends, as that would get him beaten. Watching Juggernaut leave with Jacob, Bella's gaze shifted to the Cullen family. She knew Edward had feelings for her, but her heart belonged to Bai Xiao, making them destined to be friends or strangers. Tonight's events, however, made her grateful to the Cullen family. After all, they had come despite knowing the danger, and she couldn't help but appreciate it. Dr. Carlyle. Leaving Bella's side, in the storage room of the Chino Town police station, Bai Xiao and Ancient One's figures suddenly appeared. They came to the wall where Lilith's portrait used to hang. Now the wall was empty, the portrait long reclaimed by Lilith. To track Lilith, this was the best medium, especially since Bai Xiao foresaw a future fragment revealing Lilith's plot with Dormammu against him. He immediately went to Kamar Taj to seek Ancient One's help, involving Bai Xiao's safety and Dormammu. An old acquaintance, Ancient One readily agreed, which was why he appeared in Forkstown earlier. To help, he used the Time Stone to reverse time, bringing this small space back to the past. Standing in front of the wall, Ancient One activated the Time Stone again. His right hand extended, palm facing the wall. A green magic circle appeared on the wall, and time began to flow backward, restoring Lilith's portrait. Your time is short, Bai Xiao. If you don't hurry, she will soon notice something amiss, Ancient One reminded, lowering his hand. Bai Xiao nodded, his eyes glowing golden as he gazed at Lilith's portrait. A surge of mental power invaded the portrait. In an instant, through the portrait, a deep purple thread seemed to appear, crossing boundaries and vast distances to another unfamiliar world. This world was empty, filled with black mist, within which twisted and phantom-like faces of the dead emerged. In the black mist, inside an ancient castle, Lilith appeared to be conversing with a slim woman. Understanding the coordinates in his mind, Bai Xiao immediately severed the connection to avoid being tracked. Ancient One, sensing Bai Xiao had cut off the trace, reactivated the time magic, restoring the reverse time. It appears that you have tracker location. That is a very strange world. According to records in the new compilation of the universe, it should be similar to the Helheim underworld. Although Bai Xiao was only guessing, he was probably close to the truth. The person conversing with Lilith was likely the ruler of Helheim, the goddess of death, Hela. Interesting. So what do you plan to do? Ancient One smiled. Of course, I'll go over and kill her. Bai Xiao grinned. Suddenly, a golden, magnificent magic circle appeared under his feet. As the golden light rippled, his figure disappeared. Ancient One secretly admired Bai Xiao's decisiveness. Sensing danger, tracing it back to its source, and thinking to use Lilith's image to track her down, and then, without hesitation, going to kill her. Rationality and decisiveness are among the necessary conditions for success. After pondering for a moment, Ancient One also opened a portal and left the storage room. Meanwhile, in the castle of Helheim, Lilith was conversing with Hela, the ruler of Helheim. Unlike the extremely seductive and enchanting Lilith, Hela had an extreme dark aura, more like a dark queen. She wore a dark green robe, and her beautiful face was full of majesty. Regarding Lilith's proposal, Hela casually brushed her black hair, seemingly indifferent. A good idea, but haven't you considered that my father would so easily let me leave here? He's about to die, Lilith said with a light laugh. So you think because he's about to die, he can release me? Lilith, do you misunderstand Odin's power? Hela sneered. Or do you think Dormammu is stronger than that old man? She resented that old man, hated his hypocrisy. He nurtured her, helped Asgard achieve glory, and made her an executioner. She slaughtered countless lives, but one day, that old man suddenly wanted to be a merciful king, to cover Asgard's past trampled corpses with mercy. She was indifferent, but was deprived of her freedom and sealed in this damned realm of death. She hated him, but she never doubted Odin's strength. For countless years, didn't she want to leave here? She had the ability to resist, but Hela never did because she knew resistance was futile. Odin was too strong, the strongest king in the history of the Odinson family, spreading the family's glory throughout the universe. Countless races bowed to the Odinson family's might. He even fought alone against 9 powerful celestials. Hela knew, As long as Odin lived, she had no chance of leaving here. She waited, no matter how impatient, she waited. Hela believed only after Odin's fall would she regain freedom. Before he died, Hela would never leave Helheim, even if the old man didn't have many years left. But the more it was like this, the more excited and patient Hela became. She didn't want to go out only to be dragged back by that old man before his death. So, Lilith's proposal, Hela didn't take it seriously. What Dormammu? What Dark Lord? What reward? Helping her become queen, once the old man died, she wouldn't need Lilith and Dormammu to help her. Besides, Hela always considered herself an Asgardian, and Asgard's glory wouldn't allow any outsiders to interfere. No matter the internal turmoil, it was always the Odinson family's business. When did they need outsiders? Facing Hela's firm rejection, Lilith frowned slightly. She had expected Hela to refuse, but not with such a strong attitude. Sighing lightly, Lilith stopped insisting. Just as she was about to say something else, she suddenly closed her mouth, turned her head sharply, and, like Hela, looked outside the castle. How is this possible? Lilith's face was full of disbelief. Hela frowned, her face full of displeasure. What is this? Although she didn't like it here, she was still the ruler of Helheim. Did they all think of it as a public toilet? Come and go as they please? The huge wooden door on the first floor of the castle was pushed open by an invisible force. Outside the door, endless mist rolled. Faint wails and screams of souls could be vaguely heard in the mist, their twisted faces heart-wrenching. What truly caught Lilith and Hela's attention was the figure slowly walking in the mist. In the dim light, they both saw the visitor. It was none other than Bai Xiao, dressed in a black jacket, white t-shirt, jeans, and white sneakers, embodying earthly fashion. Completely out of place with Helheim style. What caught Hela's attention the most was that Bai Xiao seemed to be harboring a terrifying energy about to erupt, so strong that it seemed a bit frightening even to her. Recalling Lilith's earlier talk about the deal, Hela immediately realized who this person was. The one who troubled Lilith and Dormammu, who's from the backward world she once looked down upon, a Midgardian. Hela's eyes flickered, and she decided to watch the show. After all, it had been years since she saw a drama of this level. Hopefully, they would fight to the death so she could pick up the pieces. So, Hela quietly took a few steps back, clearly indicating she wouldn't participate, making Lilith grit her teeth. Initially, Lilith planned to slip away upon sensing Bai Xiao's arrival. Unexpectedly, she found that the space around the castle was disrupted by an invisible force. If she dared to tear the dimension to return to hell, she would be the first to suffer. He was determined to kill her. This made Lilith heartbroken. She had never met such a ruthless human. My dear, Lilith's thoughts raced, but she still posed charmingly to ease the tension and gather strength. However, in the blink of an eye, the wretched man had already appeared in front of her. A luxuriously crafted sword slashed through the air towards her head, ruthless and resolute. Cold light flashed in Lilith's. Lilith's appearance was the epitome of allure, capable of enchanting any man. However, beneath this delicate exterior, she was still a demon lord ruling over a territory. Compared to Asmodius, she was not only not weaker, but even stronger. Facing Bai Xiao's merciless sword, Lilith discarded all thoughts from her mind, and deep purple magic power surged around her body. This enchanting, deep purple magic power blocked the sword aimed at her head. Lilith felt no joy from this because she noticed that Bai Xiao's sword was visibly breaking through the magic she had released. She suddenly extended her hand towards Bai Xiao, and an invisible, explosive energy burst forth. Bai Xiao also extended his hand, causing Lilith's energy to explode in front of him. The space before him shattered into fragmented mirrors, which he then pushed forward, reversing the attack. Lilith's eyes flashed with a deep purple, captivating light that eroded everything. This light annihilated the reversed, fragmented space. Furthermore, from the expanding, deep purple magic emerged two terrifyingly thick pythons, opening their blood-red mouths to bite Bai Xiao. Bai Xiao's eyes glowed gold, and several golden vortices appeared behind him. Red chains inscribed with mysterious magical runes shot out, instantly binding the two giant pythons and rendering them immobile. Bai Xiao withdrew his sword, and at the same time, several golden vortices opened above the pythons. Weapons fell from them, pinning the pythons to the ground of the ancient castle, making them emit horrific screams. Seeing this, Lilith spread her arms, and darkness descended in an instant. The entire castle was engulfed in pure darkness, the true essence of darkness, where everything turned black. She was the mistress of the night, capable of turning everything into night. No light, no vitality, only death. Bai Xiao felt the space around him turn into darkness. At his level of life, darkness could not blind his eyes, yet before him there was only darkness. Lilith was stronger than he had imagined. Moreover, her combat style was more peculiar, capable of quickly altering the structure of the surrounding space, similar to turning it into her territory. In her domain, she was supreme, controlling everything. The power of darkness constantly eroded vitality, seeking to engulf him, aiming not only at his body but also his soul. In this situation, anyone below the level of the Sky Father would be doomed because this realm was only comprehensible at the level of the Sky Father. According to the Ancient One, this was a rule. The term Sky Father was essentially synonymous with God. Gods can do anything, create everything, which, though somewhat exaggerated, was a fact because the Sky Father had touched upon the rules. They could change the structure of the world with their power, creating something from nothing, altering natural operations. Lilith, as the demon of lust and the mistress of night and dreams, excelled in this realm, where she was omnipotent. However, Bai Xiao was not an ordinary sub-Sky Father. His combat power was at the pinnacle of the Sky Father level. Facing Lilith's night domain, he raised his right hand, and his majestic longsword burst forth with dazzling brilliance. The blade emitted a scorching golden light, dispelling the serene darkness with divine golden radiance. With Bai Xiao at the center, turbulent air waves surged, twisting and shaking the entire world. He fought the darkness with extreme sanctity and light. Bai Xiao leaned forward, his body tilting, right foot pressing into the ground, and charged like a sword, slashing down with his noble longsword. Boom! The rampant golden light cannon exploded, and the golden energy flood instantly spread in all directions. The night domain couldn't withstand this terrifying energy impact and shattered completely. The endless darkness reverted back to Hela's ancient castle, and before the golden beam of light stood Lilith, her face serious. Bai Xiao violently broke through her night domain. Especially in the face of this terrifying strike, Lilith's figure blurred and became illusory. The explosion's force broke through the other side of the ancient castle. Bai Xiao's strike collapsed half of the castle structure, and the light cannon continued, unstoppable, shooting far away. Along the way, the omnipresent mist was dispersed and evaporated, and the souls within it wailed and screamed before dying under this blow, until a terrifying boom echoed from a far distance, shaking the entire Heim underworld. At the same time, in a distant, splendid palace, an old man in armor, wearing an eye patch, lay in bed. He seemed to sense something, and his only remaining eye twitched as if about to open. In the Heim underworld, Hela's displeased voice echoed, "Brat, you are too presumptuous, destroying my castle. If you want to fight, get out of my Heim underworld." Hela was very unhappy at this moment. This Midgard brat not only fought recklessly, but also destroyed her castle. Although she didn't care much about the castle, it wasn't just about the castle. It was about her dignity, showing a complete disregard for her. Bai Xiao stood in place, glancing at the surging deep purple energy, the elusive Lilith, and the faintly visible giant snake tail, then looked towards Hela. The ruler of the Heim underworld, the goddess of death, Hela. Hela stood not far away, watching the scene with one hand on her waist, the other playing with her black hair, a proud expression on her delicate face. "You are quite good, knowing my reputation. I forgive you, Brad. If one day the old man dies, I permit you to become my follower. Perhaps you will be suited to the role of executioner. Of course, maybe one day I will consider letting you bear the name of the Odinson family. Hela casually mentioned, causing Bai Xiao to pause. Did Hela fancy him? Of course, this was just a fleeting thought. At the moment, Bai Xiao had eyes only for Lilith. Lilith's body re-solidified from a phantom state. She no longer had the bone-deep allure she once possessed. Now, she was the ruler of the night, a powerful demon lord, and every move she made exuded terror. I've been doing my best to avoid your pursuit, but I didn't expect you to still find me. I underestimated you, human. Foolish creature. After Bai Xiao softly uttered these words, he stopped wasting time talking to a prey. On Hela's turf, Hela seemed intent on staying neutral and watching the show. What she really thought, he did not yet understand. The smartest move now was to kill Lilith as much as possible. Thus, without hesitation, Bai Xiao immediately opened a dimensional space. Torrents of compressed magic power poured into his body, instantly releasing an aura far exceeding his previous level. Boom! The terrifying aura broke through the ancient castle, spreading throughout the Heim underworld. Amid Lilith and Hela's drastic changes in expression, the underworld quaked under the overwhelming power Bai Xiao displayed. A great wind arose, and mist howled and rolled. The ground trembled, and sharp cries came from a mist as the souls of the dead felt danger and fear. Now, Bai Xiao's level and combat power had multiplied dozens of times. The exaggerated increase made Bai Xiao feel the world before him change. Everything slowed down. This essential change also made the previously powerful Lilith seem weak and small. Bang! The ground exploded, cracking open. Bai Xiao's figure suddenly disappeared, and neither Lilith nor Hela could react or catch sight of him. Facing Bai Xiao directly, Lilith felt a pain in her neck. The scene before her changed, and everything seemed to be flowing backward. At this moment, Lilith realized that the man before her had grabbed her by the neck and was flying rapidly towards somewhere. Instinctively, Lilith wanted to struggle, but was horrified to find that her proud magic power seemed out of her control. Bang! A severe pain came from her back as Bai Xiao slammed Lilith into the ground. The earth quaked, a depression tens of thousands of meters in diameter formed, and a fierce blast wave carrying stones, mist, and broken thorns swept in all directions. Not only that, but beneath the ground, centered around the two, a huge, magnificent golden circular magic array with a diameter of several kilometers suddenly appeared. Golden pillars of light shot up to the sky at the edge. These 12 pillars, wrapped in chains and engraved with mysterious patterns, combined to burst out a suffocatingly mysterious power. As a demon lord, Lilith immediately understood that this was an extremely powerful sealing magic. The opponent had sealed her in this area, making her unable to communicate or use her magic, effectively sealing all her abilities. Lilith reacted quickly, staring at Bai Xiao with her deep purple pupils, using her gaze to initiate her dream ability. She wanted to pull Bai Xiao into the dream world. She was not only the ruler of the night, but also the master of the dream world. Unfortunately, Bai Xiao was immune to this. With his level of caution, he had layered mental defenses in his mind and wore multiple layers of protective magic against mental attacks, stacking countless buffs. Moreover, in his current max mode, his magic power had reached an incredibly violent level. In this state, any abilities related to illusions, dreams, or mental attacks had minimal effect on him. Layer upon layer, Lilith's dream ability had no effect, only met with Bai Xiao's mocking, playful eyes. Your true lover, Asmodius, is waiting for you, Lilith. Bai Xiao, holding Lilith's neck with his left hand and a sword in his right, ignored her pleading, pitiful gaze. In her desperate eyes, he stabbed Lilith's heart with his sword, pinning her to the ground. The moment the sword of promised victory pierced Lilith's heart, the overwhelming magic power within the sword changed nature, like a spark igniting a barrel of oil, and began to burn. The holy and bright magic power burned, transforming into holy fire. The scorching golden flames spread, covering the depression tens of thousands of meters wide, turning it into a sea of fire. In the gloomy realm of death, this scene was quite spectacular. Under the burning sword of promised victory, Lilith's demonic body and soul also ignited. Her piercing screams of pain echoed throughout Helheim underworld. She waved her hands, trying to struggle. Even disregarding the searing pain, she tried to grasp the burning sword of victory to pull it out. But the moment she touched the sword, the scorching flames charred her hands, turning them to ashes. I curse you, human. You killed the night, you killed lust. You will never have love. You will become a harbinger of disaster. Knowing she was doomed, Lilith stopped struggling. Her body was almost charred, and her once stunningly beautiful face was now a bloody, hideous mess. Her venomous eyes stared at the human who killed her, her voice hoarse and ethereal. She wanted to curse this human who killed her, to make him remember her forever, to make him regret and sink into pain. But before the curse was complete, Bai Shao, standing in the holy flames, mercilessly stepped on Lilith's mouth, silencing her completely. With disdain, he looked into Lilith's eyes and softly said, I killed a bastard who never understood mercy. You all are just fodder. I am the executioner. My sword will cut off your heads one by one, becoming your nightmare. In your last memory, remember my face, remember my eyes, and then die. This is the only mercy I can grant you. Under the blazing sea of golden flames, Bai Shao stood firm, watching as Lilith turned to ashes at his feet, her soul also incinerated. Before Lilith's soul was burned, in her weakest state, Bai Shao read her memories and discovered the location of her treasury, a double harvest. Bai Shao, who even admitted the killer's breathtaking beauty, destroyed a beautiful thing with his own hands. Coupled with the vast life essence, this double pleasure made Bai Shao immerse in the moment. The countless cells in his body cheered, elevating his life level by a significant step. Bai Shao could feel that he had once again strengthened comprehensively, and he touched the familiar feeling of reaching his limit. It was the same familiar feeling as when he advanced to the Subsky Father level. However, compared to the Subsky Father stage, stepping into the Sky Father stage felt extremely vague. So vague that Bai Shao thought that if he stopped slaughtering and only accumulated over time to transform into a Sky Father, this time could be measured in tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. The gap was unimaginably large. No wonder the gap between the Subsky Father and Sky Father was astonishingly large. Without experiencing a greater transformation, how could one be called a god? Fortunately, Bai Shao was different from other races. Unlike those born with advantages, his achievements were purely acquired through his efforts. All his achievements were obtained through his own hands and efforts. A smile curved on Bai Shao's lips. The joy of harvest was self-evident. It was another beautiful day. Now, Bai Shao could only say that Dormammu was truly a good person. Even if he couldn't descend to Earth, he still worked hard to cultivate Bai Shao to the point of sacrificing himself to become Bai Shao. Such things should be encouraged. Originally, Bai Shao planned to trouble Caecilius, but now he changed his mind. Instead of seeking revenge, he wanted to cherish Caecilius, thinking of Dormammu as a great benefactor, and Caecilius as well. Just like this time, he must strive for his career and make it his clear goal. Such obstacles to the great Dormammu's descent must be eradicated at all costs. Bai Shao thought joyfully. After a moment of joy, he felt a pair of eyes focusing on him. He turned around and walked over, the blazing flames automatically parting to form a path. At the end of the fiery passage stood Hela. Her eyes flickered, seemingly apprehensive of the blazing holy fire. It's understandable. This holy fire was a powerful white magic derived from the power granted by Kamartaj, its power astonishing, especially with the compressed magic burning. The temperature and properties were beyond anyone's resistance. Lilith, a demon lord, was burned to ashes along with her soul, which indicated its power. Hela, a member of the Odinson family, naturally recognized its worth. What Hela feared more was the current Bai Xiao. At this moment, Bai Xiao hadn't closed his max mode, his body surging with magic power that even made her feel a bit fearful. It was terrifying that such a fragile Midgardian body could contain such immense energy. She once felt that he wasn't much different from the old man Odin, strong enough to make her shudder. Truly spectacular. It's the first time I've seen such power in years. You're called Xiao. Hela maintained her pride despite being surprised by Xiao's strength. It was pride ingrained in her bones and soul. It was pride in herself and in the glory forged by Asgard, which would not be tarnished by anyone. No matter who she faced, she wouldn't defile the Odinson family banner. Hela, daughter of Odin. Bai Xiao stood before Hela. She was tall, nearly his height. As they looked at each other, Bai Xiao's eyes flickered. He was contemplating that this woman seemed to be a sky father too, and a member of the Odinson family with great divine power. Such a level of sky father would be an excellent hunting target. But Hela wasn't easy to kill. Hela's position was high, and she was one with Asgard. Away from Asgard, she would be weakened but not killed. Killing her would take great effort. Even Odin couldn't kill Hela back then, only banishing her to hell, preventing her from leaving. Even during Ragnarok, when Asgard was destroyed, Thor and Loki thought Surtur's Twilight Sword killed Hela, but she survived and was active later. To kill Hela, the prerequisite was to sever her connection with Asgard. To achieve this condition, Bai Xiao couldn't do it now. Either destroy Asgard completely, meaning all Asgardians, including Thor, would have to be slaughtered. This was impossible, unless he could withstand the army of undead in Valhalla. He believed that if he killed Thor, the army led by the past Odinson family members in Valhalla would attack him immediately. Bai Xiao quickly realized that Hela was a poisonous cake he couldn't bite, and Hela's level was fixed. After Bai Xiao grew further, Hela's value would diminish. It was better to focus on hell, heaven, or other invading dimensions. Understanding this, Bai Xiao's killing intent gradually dissipated. He also removed Hela from his hunting list. I look forward to our next meeting, Hela. With an unmanageable cake before him, Bai Xiao didn't even bother to look. After speaking, he disappeared in a flash of golden magic. Hela was stunned. After recovering, Hela jumped up, angrily yelling, "Damn human! You broke into my home, smashed everything, and destroyed my castle, then ran away. Have you no shame?" In a densely populated and impoverished slum area, inside a very inconspicuous wooden house, no light sources penetrated the surroundings. The enclosed walls blocked out the sunlight, except for a hole in the ceiling, allowing light to shine on the floor, where mysterious red mark was engraved. Outside the circular light shadow, a group of people knelt on the ground, their eye sockets pitch black, looking ferocious and terrifying. At this moment, one of them slightly raised his head, opened his eyes, and revealed his face at the edge of the shadow. It was none other than the long-missing Caecilius. He murmured softly, "Great Master, our plan has failed." Lilith was killed. In Caecilius' hands, resting on his thighs, was a portrait of Lilith. The portrait spontaneously combusted in his hands, turning into ashes. Stupid woman, she was still found by that human. At this time, Dormammu's voice echoed in Caecilius' mind. "Abandon this plan. That human is more cunning and stronger than we imagined. My servant, choose a new target, one that is stronger and more cunning. Do not disappoint me this time. I want to see the human wail and cry in front of me." The resonant, low voice made Caecilius feel as if his soul was trembling. Caecilius' expression remained unchanged. "Yes, my master." He was met with silence. Caecilius knew his master had severed communication, and the mark on his forehead dimmed. He looked at the members of the Dark Sorcerer's cult who had developed during this time, and said sternly, "Go, do what you must, and divert their attention." The Dark Sorcerers stood up in unison and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. Caecilius kept pondering the target that would satisfy his master. At this moment, a name flashed through his mind. Him, could it be? Thinking of this terrifying figure, Caecilius hesitated again. That person was too dangerous, so dangerous that seeking him out might lead to being torn apart. But thinking of his master, his gaze became resolute. Shaw! He stood up, and the wooden house before him suddenly changed. He stepped forward, and the wooden house automatically parted, revealing a crimson scene ahead. Time passed quickly, and it was already morning. On a beautiful beach in Forks, there was a large RV parked. The morning weather was clear, with sunlight shining through the car window and curtains casting light on the bed and the two people lying on it. Bella was holding by Xiao, and the two were covered with a thin blanket. The sunlight on her delicate, fair face made her itch a little. Her eyelids moved, and she slowly opened her eyes, waking from sleep. She felt a bit confused, but quickly became fully awake when she sensed the presence beside her, her face filled with happiness. Last night, her status had changed. She could now be called a woman. Happiness accompanied fatigue. She could only say that the man beside her was too strong. She moved her little head and rested it on by Zhao's bare chest, feeling a bit dazed. Before coming to Forks, she was just an ordinary student, but this trip completely changed her destiny. She realized that the world was never as peaceful and calm as it appeared on the surface. Hidden from the ordinary person's view were truths that instilled fear: vampires, werewolves, demons, sorcerers, Asgard, the Nine Realms, the goddess of death Hela, and so on. A magical world, and she had stepped into it. Hey, good morning, my girl. While she was still thinking, her awakening also woke Bai Xiao. Actually, Bai Xiao now did not have much need for sleep. He could go without sleeping entirely. However, sleep helped his body cells maintain better vitality and accelerate the transformation to another life level. During deep sleep, his superbrain no longer required a lot of magic to maintain operation, and his body did not either. So this magic would transfer to his cells, organs, bones, and so on. In other words, if Bai Xiao let himself sleep freely, it would not be a matter of 1 or 2 days, but decades or even centuries. But Bai Xiao did not need to do that. Sleeping would be too wasteful of time and make him miss many wonderful stages. Especially in recent days, he had spent many nights with Bella, which also included some excavating projects. After waking up, he lowered his head and kissed the girl's forehead, brushed aside a few stray strands of her hair, and looking into her watery eyes, he said softly, "It seems we need some morning exercise." Oh no, Shaw. 2 hours passed, and the blush-inducing scene was gone. Bai Xiao and Bella got up and began to wash up, especially Bella, who brushed her teeth particularly hard, occasionally rolling her eyes at Bai Xiao. Bai Xiao winked playfully and made a simple yet delicious breakfast for them. After enjoying breakfast, Bai Xiao and Bella came down from the RV, took 2 chairs, and sat by the lake, admiring the scenery. Bai Xiao turned to Bella. "Are you planning to finish this semester?" "Yes, Charlie hopes I will, so..." Bella nodded. Charlie was a traditional and old-fashioned father. Even after the divorce, he rarely saw Bella. Since Bella came to Forks, Charlie gradually noticed some changes in her, but he still hoped Bella would finish high school in Forks. Bella also didn't want to disappoint Charlie. Hearing Bella's decision, Bai Xiao was not surprised. In fact, he wouldn't interfere too much with Bella's choices because respect was mutual. "So, you're leaving?" "No, not for now. Maybe I'll need to handle some things in between. Sometimes I get very busy." Bai Xiao hinted, and Bella understood. It was about expelling or hunting down those enemies invading Earth from other dimensions. But what Bella didn't understand was that Bai Xiao's real thoughts were a bit different from what she imagined. He was about to formally start building the Golden City, Asgard, bathed in sunlight. A grand stage play is taking place in the spacious square. On the stage, actors are performing a play depicting Thor leading his army to battle demons invading the 9 realms. In the audience, Thor, Loki, the warriors 3, Sif, and Frigga, wife of the All-Father Odin, are gathered together. Apart from the loyal Asgardian warriors standing guard, there are also many Asgardian citizens, creating a lively scene. The people, dressed in splendid yet simple clothing, watch the play, each with their own thoughts. Loki, expressionless, was dissatisfied with the play, especially with the few scenes portraying his character. All the spotlight was on his brother Thor, making him feel like a clown. His accumulated negative emotions grew more intense. As the god of mischief, his ability to mask his emotions was excellent, and no one could see his inner discontent. Perhaps it was also because most Asgardians were somewhat insensitive. The attention of the audience was not entirely focused on the stage either. Only Volstagg, the fat one, seemed to enjoy the new play, laughing heartily while chewing on his food and clapping his hands. Thor sat beside him, deep in thought. Noticing Thor's unusual demeanor, Sif directly asked, "Are you still thinking about the demons that recently invaded the Nine Realms and caused turmoil?" Her question caught the attention of the others, including the elegant Queen Frigga. However, Frigga maintained her composure, appearing to watch the play while actually paying attention to the conversation. Thor nodded in response to Sif's inquiry. Indeed, the turmoil in Hell has led to the death of a demon lord. The source of this disturbance is said to be from Midgard. Midgard? That backward world? Fandral stroked his well-groomed mustache, recalling the most inconspicuous realm among the Nine Realms. Asgardians rarely ventured to that world because it was too primitive, and primitiveness was often accompanied by peace. Hence, Asgard rarely sent troops to quell rebellions there. Perhaps, over the years, the short-lived people of Midgard had forgotten their rulers, the Asgardians. Such things were common. Yes, it is said that a person from Midgard invaded the demon lord Asmodius' territory, fought for 15 days, and killed him, Thor said solemnly. His tone carried admiration, astonishment, and excitement. As a warrior, Thor respected any warrior and desired to fight those stronger than him. He loved battle. The fact that his once insignificant realm had produced someone capable of killing a demon lord seemed unbelievable yet thrilling. If possible, he wished to find this warrior. A world like Midgard could produce such a powerful being? Asgard has never heard of such a thing before, Sif exclaimed in astonishment. A demon lord is equivalent to an Allfather. To be killed by a Midgardian, it is evident that this Midgardian is also of the Allfather level, akin to our father. But he suddenly invaded Hell and killed Asmodius. The reason behind the war between these unrelated individuals is intriguing. Fandral, the most thoughtful and rational of the Warriors Three, quickly deduced Thor's thoughts. As a territory ruled by Asgard, Midgard had always been peaceful with few disturbances. Though Asgard didn't care much, it was still a domain under their rule. The emergence of a being as powerful as the Allfather Odin in such a place was worth contemplating. No ruler wants a powerful individual suddenly appearing in their domain. Given that this person became an Allfather and entered Hell to kill Asmodius, it proved he was no benign presence. Would this individual develop ambitions? Would he willingly continue to be ruled by Asgard? At such a level, who wouldn't be prideful? Asgard would not agree to Midgard's independence, as that would undermine Asgard's authority. Therefore, the next likely step could be war. No wonder Thor seemed somewhat worried. Everyone grew serious for a moment. Even Volstagg, who loved stage plays, stopped watching. Only Queen Frigga seemed unaffected, continuing to watch the play and occasionally clapping, though the smile in her eyes revealed her thoughts. Frigga was pleased that Thor had learned to think. She understood the reasons and knew that her husband Odin had long paved the way. She hoped this event would help Thor and Loki grow. Do we need to visit Midgard, Thor? After pondering for a while, Fandral looked at Thor. Maybe we should talk to him. Perhaps we can resolve this without war. We do not fear war, Fandral. Midgard has always been under Asgard's rule. No one could defy Asgard. Whoever they are, their fate will ultimately be judgment. Volstagg said gruffly, his expression fierce. Yes, we do not fear war, but if possible, we should try to avoid it. Previously, Thor would have unhesitatingly gone to Midgard to meet this mysterious warrior. But recklessness must be measured. Knowing that a strong individual capable of killing a demon lord existed, hastily starting a war was uncertain and potentially disastrous. Thor sensed that the outcome might not be favorable. Moreover, as Asgard's only All-Father. Odin had been in slumber more frequently over the years. Thor knew this was Odin's weakest period, and the day of his fall was not far off. Thor had to consider these issues. Thinking deeply made Thor's head feel itchy, as if something was growing but not yet fully formed. Especially Heimdall. He cannot see this person in Midgard, nor can he find him.
Hello, everyone. As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.